All right. It should be working nicely. We can see on stream right now the result for the Cuphead race. So Cylinder Mars with a 1933 got a very nice score of 194, but Fireman is very close at 192. Goes this at 190. 189, Kelpo Quick at 187, tied with Ziguigui. Exeto got the big surprise for today. I think you'll agree with me, Mythical, but getting there with 192 is fantastic for them.
Oh yeah, this is big. If you, uh, consider if this, I guess this is their new PB because they didn't have one on the leaderboard. Adding this to their existing total, which I can actually just do right now. I guess just the way Excel works, 814 points puts Exodo actually in fourth place in terms of where they stand on the leaderboard. Again, it's all about how you do in these races in this tournament. So, it can be fun to look at the leaderboard postings and make some predictions. And generally, the predictions are pretty good when it comes to speedrunning. But with the UD, the circumstances, the limited amount of time, the switching between different games, there's a lot up in the air. So definitely remains to be seen. But this time puts Exodo right up there with the other 4 or 5 runners who are all going to be competing for the top 4. Everyone cannot make it. We always like to joke that we wish everyone could win, but
Yeah.
only 4 are going to be moving on. And with that fantastic Cuphead time, Exodo is challenging to be one of those 4.
Yeah, it's actually it's going to be great for them. So Gus Deska, Quick, Zigui, and Axedo. Axedo is right on top there because we are streaming number third, fourth, fifth, and sixth place on stream because that's where the tension is. So up part of the screen, that's those 2 runners are still in, and bottom part they have to make some room. But sadly, as you can see, the PBs for A Story About My Uncle, the top screen does better than the bottom part of the screen. So Axedo and Zigwig will have to prove that they can get there. Ghost and Quick has to they have to confirm that their PB is actually what they can provide live right now. So it's going to be interesting to see. Story About My Uncle is not the easiest one to race. The learning experience is not too bad, but that's one of those games where if you fail something, you're all going to lose a lot of time, and it's going to be pretty tough to come back from there.
Yeah, it's also one of those games where I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's because of the way you soar through the air. Uh, when you soar through the air and then miss something, you feel like you just spent a lot of time doing nothing, and it can get to you. It gets under your skin or something. But it's a pattern that we've seen where someone misses one thing and then they miss it again and again and again, and something they thought they had, they're wondering if they don't have it anymore, and it's like a quicksand effect, and it can happen in a lot of games, but I think it's particularly a threat in this game for now. The players have obviously they're off to a start. We're almost a minute into the run, but the run kind of doesn't really start until we load into the sanctuary. That's where our suit finally activates. We get our crazy running and jumping powers, and we very quickly start to unlock the grappling hook that kind of makes the game.
Yeah, so right now we are just barely getting to the title screen. Actually, we are going to get into that teleported to the fantastic world of A Story About My Uncle, where all magical powers pretty much will allow us to get jumping and get into things very fast. Late start for MC, probably got had to switch from Cuphead, and probably that took them a little bit longer than expected, but it's okay. Everybody else is pretty much in sync, landing on Sanctuary, and here starts really the run, because those few jumps right at the start of the level, Zigwigwi just missed there. That's going to decide quite a lot, because all the level is in a global timer and global cycles everywhere, and if you start missing, you will have to deal with different patterns that you're probably used to, and that can cost you a lot of time. So it's pretty crucial to get that first level nice and smooth. So Axoto and Go Quick actually landing on the same cycle here. And all those jumps are pretty tricky, because you don't have any means so far to just like save yourself from failing. You are pretty much just like jumping and hoping you're landing on something solid. But right now we just got the first grapple charge, and that's where the game starts to get very interesting.
Yeah, the first thing that you're going to see the players do with this grappling hook is one, you can now control where you land, exactly where you land. You point at where it is and you pull yourself towards it. The other thing was we're seeing just there from Exodo is, I mean, obviously you're going to use it to traverse the way the game expects you to, but in terms of speed running, you can hook onto the very edges of things, and depending on how close to the edge you are and how you kind of bounce off of it, you can actually get a pretty hefty speed boost. Exodo is just barely going to land on these platforms, getting a boost he didn't want in an upwards direction, waiting till he landed before he could continue. The players are probably, well, I'm not sure. We have seen some players opt to be rather safe in Sanctuary and take the intended route, but there is an out-of-bounds sequence running along the bottom left corner, skipping along some rocks. There's one really tricky jump that Ghost Death is going to have to do in just a little bit, looking for that edge. It's on this next rock. Oh, he's doing something different here, but
Yeah,
he is gonna.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Nice and safe setup for Ghost Death. They're the only one to go for that out of bounds sequence. Everybody else got the intended way, and knowing how many people had to restart multiple times during UD races, I feel like knowing your limits exactly there, and if knowing that maybe you are not consistent enough at that skip, and knowing that you probably should go for the safer route, that's a good strength, and that's probably the skill that takes the most time to develop when you are starting to do speedrun races. And I'm not surprised to see at the end of the UD so many of those good and talented runners actually go for the safer route, because it's just like the smart way to approach the race, I feel. Ghost Death taking a lot of nasty death here, actually being caught back up by everybody, and Quick is in the lead.
So Gwigwi was going for. I thought he fell off and then was trying to save himself and then was a little too late, but he was actually doing something very clever that didn't quite work out. If you grapple right as you reset back to a checkpoint, it's possible to reset back to the checkpoint but maintain your grapple on something, and was about to do some kind of insane long distance grapple off the refresh point, but the tether broke. I'm not quite sure exactly what happened, but it seemed very intentional. He looked up after he fell, and then had the arc icon lit up and just waited until he was just about to reset before he fired it. So it was really going for something there. I wanted to see what was going to happen. I'm sure he wanted to show us, but it didn't quite work out. So that was a pretty big time lost. Ghost Death also struggling, like you said. This is an easy game to struggle with.
Yeah, it's the first level is probably the hardest of the bunch, and which is the last one, and it's just overall like the way the game handles the game, the way the game works. It's very easy to struggle at the start. It's a pretty intense game to speedrun and to get like good at, but it's a nice experience when just like learning where are the optimal places to grapple onto and how you can get fast from point A to point B. But when you are trying to deal with all those cycles and everything, it gets pretty tedious. Exodo and Quick in the second level, Quick having a substantial lead there into the cutscene. We cannot skip that when we have to wait for Maggie to tell us about everything we need to know before like setting us free and allowing us to jump and grapple again. So Quick is in the starting blocks there, just waiting for the cutscene to stop.
So Gwigwi was maybe taking it for granted a little bit at this end sequence. A lot of players will just kind of throw themselves forwards and just assume they're going to hit that trigger to advance to the next area. As soon as you see the text, as soon as that sort of a cutscene-ish thing starts, it doesn't matter what you do, where you go. You can go poke your head outside the environment and go look into the void like Zigwigwi did. You will load into the next area just fine. But if you don't hit that checkpoint, then you can't afford to just fall or goof off or do whatever. And it looked like Zigwigwi got the party started a little bit too early, had to reset back to the checkpoint. Another costly mistake. Pretty far behind as Capriquick is already done with this very long cutscene, racing off through the village now, and is looking really good.
This is one of the most satisfying part of the game, in my opinion. Just racing through that village, you're just ignoring everything. And Quick just did that insanely tight landing on the small pebble where the rocks you are intended to grapple on are revolving around. And just look at them; they have that one last tether. They can get to the checkpoint here. That's a very, very nice sequence, perfectly executed. It's not easy, not taking the time to set themselves up, triggering the cutscene. They have to restart their or they're going to lose about 2 minutes. So you want to grapple exactly on the edge of the cavern, so you will not touch the box that triggers the dialogue. Quick does it nicely on the second try. And being able to reset here makes that game from like unspeedrunnable to pretty race friendly. Like it's okay, you can just like come back to the menu and to the checkpoint again.
Yeah, this game would not be in the Ultimate Decathlon if there was no reset. If you missed that cutscene skip, but there is, and it's really not too costly. So we'll see how it goes for Ghost Death now, who's ready here at this cave looking for it. It is still fairly costly if you miss it. Going into the menu and resetting and things will eat up about 10 seconds or so if you miss it, so you really don't want to. Ghost Death doesn't, is looking good. Exodo getting hung up on some of these rocks here approaching this sequence. Capriquick just kind of going for a ride right now. Capriquick still looking very solid. It's just moving very fluidly through the stages one to the next, and is showing no signs of slowing down.
Yeah, they are like doing great there. Getting to level 3 first. Zigwigwi and Ghost Death are not Exodo and Ghost Death are not too far behind, but Zigwigwi still has to go for the cutscene skip. Apparently the setup is overcomplicated for them, so maybe there is like one final learning tutorial experience all the runners have to go for in order to be totally ready for next week, because next week our top 4 is going to race all 10 games back to back, and it's going to be pretty interesting. So brother main in chat, feel free to teach all of them the safer way, but apparently everybody is having like a decent experience, except Quick. They had like one reset, like one tiny reset. Zigwigwi and Ghost Death and Exodo actually that went fine for them. So as long as it works, it's not too bad.
Capriquick, not sure if this is the first or second try at this skip in the caves, navigating in the darkness, trying to find the correct points to latch onto this wall, going for a very large skip, walking or not walking, you're nowhere close to walking when you're using this grappling hook. Swinging and slinging your way along the outsides of this wall rather than going through a really long sequence inside the caves. Majority of it being skipped right now. Capriquick going inside is a safety measure to get a checkpoint, but is right back on the outside, slinging around, is looking for that platform right there. Has got plenty to land on it. Hitting that checkpoint is going to be a sigh of relief.
Yeah, they were very safe here. It was pretty great, and it is not an easy skip. The second part is not too bad, but the first part it's really pitch back, and apparently it's working well for Exodo touching the ground. It's such a relief to get to the ground, having all your charges back, and being able to do whatever you want again. Zigwigwi did not start the skip yet. They are just at the start, and goes there. Scale Quick and Exodo are done with the start of the level, so it's just like going forward. Quick is almost done. There are not stopping for anything. It's a very impressive run so far.
I always get nervous when players use all three of their grapples and then just, they have an upwards trajectory and they just sail to whatever they were aiming at and they've got it all under control. But in my mind, you're totally out of control when you lose that third grapple. So just, biting my nails watching. But Exodo did manage to land on the platform, unlike Ghost Death, who did find something here. He did get a tall jump and is now grappling up to something. Can he make this work?
They're looking for like a spot here, but not finding it 2 times in a row. That's going to be costly for them. Exodo passed them already. Zigwigwi is just at the start of the second part of the level here, breaking the tether. I don't know what's happening for them. It's been multiple times where they got like tether to break. It's not such a usual in the game. It's the grapple is actually quite strong and will pull you toward wherever you want. So it's I hope everything is okay for them. You can see them like turning the camera to get to check if the edge boost is going to be there. Not able to tether to grapple right at the end of the skip here. That's pretty nasty.
Ghost Death is going to be able to hit the trigger to move on to Star Haven, where Kapwikwik is already off and sailing, grappling onto the foliage of a tree there. You might wonder how sturdy it is, but apparently it is quite sturdy indeed. Kapwikwik's going to make use of that. Zigwigwi still having a bit of trouble in the caves here, but is going to be able to get to this next checkpoint. He's going to be following on the same sequence that was giving Ghost Death so much trouble. A lot of players struggling, both Ghost Death, Zigwigwi, and Exodo all struggled to some degree with this final sequence with this eyeball monster. It's coming in from this crazy sequence break angle that the players are coming in. It's definitely an easier, shorter sequence than intended, but yeah, we've seen some players just fall short on some of these jumps, and Zigwigwi didn't like.
They triggered the worm, so they had to go back to the menu. If you don't, like, the worm is still awake and will chase you, and you have to stop even if you don't know that he's looking at you. So usually it's not like even possible to beat the game anymore. So that's once again like a pretty unusually nasty death for Zigwigwi. Struggled a lot on that level 3, and that's going to set them back quite far actually on the story about my uncle. They are tied with Kapwikwi score-wise after Cuphead, but Kapwikwi apparently is not like did not want that tie to move on game 2. Like, they're doing great, almost like at the village on Star Heaven. Star Heaven is all about moving freely with a multiple path, and you have to deal with those wings there, and those are quite bad actually. Oh, Kapwikwi finding the edge of the platform, just barely able to save themselves, but no problem.
With those fans, it is tricky. They will be moving on a cycle that starts at the start of the level, and arguably a speedrunner could get good enough that they could consistently get to the fans at the same time and expect them to reasonably be in the same place. But it's a pretty long level, and our speedrunners are just not at that insane level of consistency. So those fans are going to be a bit random, basically. Seems pseudo random. You're going to have to adjust to where those fans are. on their cycles, and you can aim at the middle where they're, it doesn't really matter where the outsides are. That middle that they all spin around is going to be there, and so a lot of players like to go for it, but it's definitely not as easy as going for the big outstretched fan that Ghost Death is going to be aiming at. It looks like he's got them upright, ready for him, but he's going to skip that first one, so he is also going to be doing the same thing that Caprique did, and he's got not a great angle here. We'll see if he can make it work. He does.
Yeah. That part killed me so much on my first playthrough of that game. It's those are pretty bad to start with. Like it's actually hard to understand how they move. Plus the momentum the wings are actually giving you is quite underwhelming. You are like you feel like it should go and send you you know into the air with a incredible speed like I don't know, like a catapult will do. But instead, it's just like giving you a little bit tiny forward momentum, and that's it. And also, you don't have the same like grapple distance between, like, it's shorter for a wing compared to what it is for those rocks here that you can grapple onto from pretty far, and it's quite surprising. So all the runners are well practiced and know how to deal with that. And Quick is going for the skip here without even stopping. Very nicely executed, perfect momentum at the start, and they aren't like this village cutscene skip got a lot of people, and yeah, so far like it's almost flawless for Quick.
Yeah, there was that one failed cutscene skip, but otherwise it has been a fantastic run. That cutscene skip is definitely well, the one he succeeded at just then is it's one of the biggest tricks in the run. What is he going to do from here? He's going to purposefully fall so that he gives himself a bit of a slingshot. Nice improvise there. It is not an easy thing to do in this game, to improvise in situations like that. I mean, sometimes there's something right there in front that you latch onto it and you're fine. But sometimes you get situations like that where it is pretty unclear how you save yourself. Caprique took a moment kind of slingshotting back and forth, showcasing the strength of the tether on the grapple hook, but saw the thing to do and was able to execute on it.
Nice. Yeah, it's a game where, like, if it doesn't go the way you want, if you have to save yourself, the game gives you a lot of tools, but you have to know which to use. And at that point, it was just like a perfect recovery from Quick. Zigwoo just got the boost boots, and Exodo and Ghostess are progressing towards the end of the level. Ghostess just got the skip, is not stopping for anything right now, and Exodo is a very good Cuphead, is really into the race for top 4 now. So it's all very important. All the games right now, you cannot like skip anything. You have to try and save all the seconds on all those 5 games. A Story About My Uncle is going to favor probably Fireman, because as you said at the start of the stream, they're pretty good at those tight FPS. And then for The End Is Nigh, it's going to be maybe like some other runners that's going to be easier for. So Quick taking all they can on A Story About My Uncle, already done with level 4 and coming into level 5. Level 5 is where things get complicated if it goes wrong, and it can go pretty fast if everything goes right. So it's a tough level in a race, I'd say.
Yeah, we've seen some players kind of melt down. You think in the coldest level they wouldn't, but they do in the ice caves. There is some really tricky sequences. Some of the trickiest, jankiest looking stuff happens in the ice caves, and we'll take a look at it in a little bit. There is quite a bit of waiting for this last cutscene. Caprique is finally moving on this airship. The other players have yet to even reach it, though. Ghost Death is pretty close. Exodo finding connection on that fan. Zigwigwi successfully transferring to the next. Ghost Death is on this box tether here, and Capriquick is now finally loading up into the ice caves. We are not going to be heading to the right and triggering kind of the coolest, maybe most iconic sequence of the game. We are going to skip it by grappling directly through this sheet of ice that you're kind of not supposed to see, but it's there, and you can grapple to it straight through the wall. And that's kind of the trickiest part. After that, you're good to go for a little bit before you start getting into the rocket boots reset skip up this rock tower that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so here you have to land a little bit out of bounds, like in the sheet of ice, and you can reset your boots and get to that rock, and then you have to use those grapple both to get up there and then stabilize yourself onto the rock. And it's not like that easy, and yeah, you can slip pretty easily from those tiny pebbles. So Capriquick just successfully managed to recover a little slip there, and it is not easy at all to get up there high enough, grappling onto the rock and then getting on top of it. It's one of those parts of the level that can trip you up, but Capriquick manages to get there. Axedo and Ghostdeath are both in the cutscene there, and Digwigwi is not too far behind, but they still have a lot to work on there. And yeah, not using the boots to save yourself is pretty nice. You are going to see a lot of that, especially in the ice caves where you are supposed to lose your boots, but it's not going to happen quite that way into the speedrun. Capriquick taking advantage of those rocks on the side of the level. The devs were nice enough to not put kill boxes everywhere, but you can freely explore and get to wherever you want. And right here, you can grapple onto that rock with skipping the checkpoint right to your left, and doing that, you don't break your boots for those nice and tall caverns here.
Yeah, this sequence here, you're supposed to be navigating without the boots. It's this very vertical section, and as you can imagine, having a set of rocket boots in a vertical section is quite handy, though it looks like Capriquick is going to miss and is going to, rather than reset, is going to grapple back down and land, give that one again. Bonking your head anywhere is kind of the kiss of death in this game. It's very rarely are you able to recover from it with any sort of grace. It's a pretty big time loss when it happens, but yeah, with that one grapple, two grapples, and then going to be looking to line up this rocket boot shot deep into this cave, but not too deep, getting hung up on some icicles there. Nice. So you're going to land and lose control of a lot of your things that make you go fast. It's just a trot over to this sequence here where you repair your broken, not broken rocket boots and are able to continue through the final sequence of the game. Ghostdeath joining the other players now in the ice cave. Exodo looking to execute on some of this really tough rocket boot stuff. He's got a good line. No, okay, we got one more try at it.
They're not using the...
That one's good.
They're not using the grapple to grapple on top of the rock to get pulled to exactly where you want. Like, if you're not sure you are going to grapple on exactly the correct spot, and you'd rather like go by feel or just like eyeball it, it's a good idea. But I like that game has a lot of different strats everywhere. You can navigate differently, and obviously different strats are going to take different amount of time. But sometimes in a story about my uncle, the safer the better, I'd say.
Ghostdeath is now on this just really dark section that you're kind of not supposed to be on. Yeah, like you said, there's no kill boxes here. There's even some secrets that the developers have put in some cases. There's one in particular that the players will make use of on a big ice pillar. But everyone's going to have a difficult time catching Capriquick. Has been pretty flawless. There's been that one mistake, missing the cutscene skip in the village, and pretty much everything before that and everything after has been completely solid, setting up for the final Spider-Man sequence through this downward slope, refreshing your grapples with the crystals as you go. It's going to be quite a while before we touch the ground again, and when we do, the run is going to be mostly over. I think Week is going to probably be quite happy with this run. Yeah. Week is trying to find that rock. He went for the grapple down onto the point, like you said, so that means this is his last grapple, and that is not going to do it. Wow, he's going to have to go back a long ways.
Death. Oh wow, that one hurts. Ziggugi had like a lot of issues on that Story About My Uncle run. They've been practicing a lot the games they didn't have throughout the week for that specific race, and probably let Story About My Uncle a little bit on the side, and like they had to be able to get to Shovel Knight sub 65 minutes, and it's Yuri is a tough speedrun competition. You have to get good and simultaneously at 10 games, and that's not an easy task. And maybe Gugu is just tripping a little bit on a Story About My Uncle, or maybe the game is just like not up his alley, which I would totally understand. But still, 40 minutes to beat the game to get the 100 points should be enough still for them, so no worries. Quick is waiting for the final cutscene to go. Exodo and Ghostdeath are almost done with the level. They're very, very close to each other. Ghostdeath is slightly ahead.
Exodo is, had to. I think he slipped off and then had to rocket boots back. It's the kind of thing that would be faster to just grapple to save yourself, but there's no grapple points on some of this ice. There's no ice physics on the ice, thank goodness. But you do have the grapple limitations. Oh, and now there's no way to save himself. Rocket boots already used.
Wow, that's so far behind. That's a big time loss. They have to look how far they died. Like it's
that pillar way in the distance. He was already on the other side of it. I think that's probably the first time I've seen a player die there. There's a lot of ways to die in the ice cave, but that was not one of the big threats, I would say.
Yep. It's like landing here is pretty bad. Like you have to know exactly where the spot he is. If you go too far to the right or to the left, you will just slip and die. Landing there, you can grapple onto, so you should be set, and then jumping and using the boots, you should be able to get up there, and that's where the game supposedly goes. Like that's the normal route. So here we go. That's a big time loss for Axodo, but still they're in there. Currently in 6th place, but with 182 on the Cuphead, as we've said multiple times. They have like nice edge into that tourney. So Ghostdeath is almost done, but Quick got there like 2 minutes and a half ago. That's going to be a huge boost for them, in scoring wise. It's going to be insane. That's going to be like about 25 points, I'd say, and it's going to be huge for going into Game 3.
Yeah, this is Quick is looking to be very solidly in the top 4 to advance and qualify, and even in the next phase to qualify. It's not just about being number 1, but being number 1 is certainly better than being number 2, 3, or 4. It also sends a message to your opponents. All kinds of other implications there. And it looks like Quick is very interested in them. Finally now done with the cutscene, with a final walk through the workshop to finish off the run. It definitely doesn't end with a bang, this game, but it is the timing that the community uses, so we're following suit, and it is the thing that actually triggers the credits, so there's some merit to it, so that is how we're going to finish it. It's like Weekly is now setting up for this difficult pillar landing that gave some other players, pretty much just Exodo, some trouble. and is going to be able to find the grapple onto the little frozen snowman platform. Exodo is now boosting through to the finish, is now done. It's a little unclear just how far behind they really are. But Kerpikweek is now crossing the final threshold at 31:42.
Yeah, Kerpikweek is like 30 seconds behind PB. That's pretty much just like the couple of mistakes they made is more than that, I'd say. It's crazy, like, and that's a fantastic run for them. They even beat Fireman. Fireman, we said the FPSs are probably their strengths into the tourney, so it's very good for them. Sub 32. Fireman is going to look at this 32, like 30 around this time, final time. Axedo and Ghost, they still have to wait for the cutscene. Ice Storm is almost done with the level. MC is halfway through. Silent the Mars is a little bit right behind Ice Storm, so it's still good for them. I think, or I'm mistaken. All those pillars and all that ice looks very similar.
Yeah, I could have swore Sailing to Mars was playing with the game Mirrored or something, and it was going around the pillar with, but I feel like it's much more likely that I'm just missing where they are. I think we're heading into the Dark Rock climbing section now. Yeah.
Yeah, they went like usually the runners where Axedo died, usually where the MC right now is. Usually runners go to the
right side.
The right side, but Sandemars is taking a very a faster route, but more riskier, where they go to the left side. The overall structure of the level makes you go towards the left side, but you don't have the small Olaf platform. So if you can manage to get like big jumps and know exactly where to land, you can get like a faster, slightly, it's not by much, slightly faster route, but riskier. And yeah, it is a tough game. So they went for it, succeeded, and they're going to look at a maybe 37 final time, which is like going to be way far behind Kerpikweek. But Kerpikweek is ahead of pretty much everybody by a lot right now.
Definitely where you want to be. It's going to be quite happy with his performance over these first two games. Sailing to Mars now setting through the final sequence of the game. One of the last few players left swinging through these ice caves, gunning for the transfer. There it was okay. It's kind of stalled a little bit here. Can make this work. Icicles in the way. He's gonna wait to get underneath them.
Not and going refuel.
Yeah,
nice.
It's
been a while since we've seen runners die there. Usually, like, we always had like 2 or 3 runners die there, and everybody got like to respect that section because it's way harder than it looks. You have to be very careful and very precise with your grappling and refilling of your grapple charges. So yeah, the game got like every game in the UD have a different story, whether the runners go for harder and harder strats, or if everybody like slowly reverts to something like safer, or if the runners just like get a mix. And some sections got definitely the respect of the story about my uncle runners, and that last one is one of them.
There's something about, you plan ahead, a grapple or two ahead, and basically you're counting on, I don't need that crystal because I'm gonna go here and here and then I'll get that crystal. Yeah. But then when you suddenly bonk into an icicle, or one of your grapples doesn't go quite as planned, suddenly everything's a big question mark, and now you're like, do I need that crystal I just passed? Do I turn around and get it? And then it's in those little moments of scramble that disaster can happen, basically. But we saw 2 players come into those situations, and they were able to navigate them the way that you kind of have to if you want to be able to race this game in the Ultimate Decathlon. So very good to see. We got some finishing cutscenes here before the walk to the finish line. All the players going to be finishing within the 40-minute time limit, though this is a long cutscene, so it's actually going to be a little bit close, but definitely going to be finishing in time.
Yeah, so Ziguri gets to the credits. They still have the final epilogue to go through. It's quite fast. It's tiny enough to go for, and they should be done at around like a 38 time. It's an interesting game. Like, the community has taken some interesting decision regarding the ruling, and definitely having to go for that final section is probably rewarding. In like when you're grinding, you don't like go for, you reset before if you're behind PB. But during a race, it's excruciating to have to wait for those minutes to go, and you look at your score and you see the score decreasing pretty fast in the UD. So the MC Sander Mars have to go for that. Airstrom is almost done with the game. Zigugui as well, and that's everybody done under 40 minutes as expected.
Squiggy got hung up on the corners of the stairs. That's one of the main little things that can happen to you in the workshop. There's sometimes little optimizations to be made. Nice little box skip here.
Wow.
Cutting off, a second and a half of walking. I'm sure that was someone was happy to find that. I think when you find a trick in a speedrun, big or small, someone found that and was like, yeah, look at that. That's like a second going around that box. Saved that second. Zigwigwi is now done. Final time going to be somewhere in the 38:22-ish region, give or take a little bit in stream delay and whatnot. We're getting credits for MC Saline Demeyers loading up on the stairs, able to navigate without getting hung up on the corners. It is a trade-off between, dodging the corner, but also not swinging out too wide around the banister like a kid, arm fully extended, just rotating around the end of it.
The hitbox, your hitbox in that section where you try to dodge everything is way tighter than you'd expect. It's actually pretty bad sometimes. So they did great, and Sander Mars is almost done. They will be finishing second to last after being first by quite a margin on Cuphead, so it's going to balance everything out. MC is almost done as well. MC is having a rough start with 120 on Cuphead. It's going to be around 100 on A Story About My Uncle. We still have 3 games to go for, but just being able to finish those games here is already a good feat, because the time limit for those games in the UD6 is actually very tight. You have to be an experienced runner to be able to beat all those 10 games in time.
MC, speaking of in time, I maybe called it a little bit early. The timer is ticking over to the 40-minute mark just as MC is approaching this door. So the time's up is going to trigger. Now remember the stream delay. There's, things are not quite perfectly synced. So I'm not sure exactly what will become of MC. Now remember, in the UD, there is a cutoff at a certain number of points. And if you are above the cutoff, you will get 100 points plus some, extra amount on a linear scale. And if you are over the cutoff, you get a 0. It is a difference of 100 points for a very small time differential. So it's actually pretty important. If MC wants any chance of staying in it, needs to get under that last couple that last couple seconds there. So I'm not sure. We'll take a look at the leaderboards in just a moment, but for now we can take a look at our next upcoming game. It's going to be The End Is Nigh.
So The End Is Nigh, precision platformer, very similar looking to Meat Boy. It's related. It's Edmund Macmillan platformer, and It is obviously a very nice speedrun. All precision base execution, tight movement. We are going for the friend category, where the goal is to find all three parts of your friend to be, and just get to the half game category. So it's a nice one. Pretty fun to learn. If you never played through the Endless Night, you could definitely go for that. It's a very, very nice and smooth experience. But for now, we are just done with a story about my uncle, and the runners have submitted their time. So, quick with a fantastic story about my uncle, swing and got back to first place. Very, very nice run, 31:40. Fireman at 32:26 is in second place, and there's a small gap with Ghost Death and Axodo at 3:49 and 3:24, and then that's the big gap. In fifth place, Zigwigwi is at 3:04, 20 points behind Axodo, and Silent Mars is at 300, 4 points behind Zigwigwi. So the fourth place is reachable, but they will have to work for that. MC finished at 38:40, which brings a total of 232. And Alstrom sadly did not get the time to beat the game, and finished at 42 minutes and 35 seconds. That's no 0 points, because that's above 40 minutes, sadly.
Yeah, is pretty much out of it at this point. I mean, Shovel Knight is part of our 5 games today, and Shovel Knight has been very mean to a lot of runners in the past. It is probably the biggest source of our DNFs in the UD. So it's never over until Shovel Knight is over, but it's looking very likely that MC and Astrom are not going to be able to make it happen and get into the top 4 on the second turn of this September playoff. So it's looking like it's going to be a battle of 6, and it is somewhat close. Separating. Fourth is kind of the cutoff. Exodo is sitting there, currently setting the bar at 324 points, and Ziguigui is just 20 points off that. Salient another 4 behind him. 24 is it's a fair bit over just 3 games, but it is not an insurmountable amount. And even Ghost Death, Fireman, Kerpeak, all very solid players, but they're going to have to continue to be solid, or they're going to start to drop back. These other players might start to creep up. It could be pretty interesting.
So how likely is it that Kerpeak keeps first place? Because the end is nigh. Shovel Knight and Shovel Knight are not their strengths. Like the end is nigh, their PB is at 2650, so that's 131 point, and Shovel Knight, their PB during races is at 1 hour and 4 minutes, so that's 104 points. So I'm interested to see how that will go for them. They should be set if they go and beat all the 3 other games to stay in top 4. Although it's not free, they have to work for that. But keeping the first place is going to be interesting.
It's a little close. It definitely favors both Ghost Death and Fireman in terms of catching up to Kerpeak across the last 3 games. Though Kerpeak does have the best inertia time, not by much, but just does have the best of those 3 players. I think the biggest thing is that Kerpeak just has momentum. Just did great in 2 runs back to back. Is sitting with a fair lead. That does a lot for a player mentally, and I think that can count for a lot in terms of influencing how you play through the rest of the other games. So we'll take a look here and there at how Kerpeak and Fireman, Astrom, and MC are doing, but our focus is going to be on 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, which means we're going to be watching Ghost Death, Exodo, Ziguigui, and Salient Damars taking off through the first section, unfittingly named The End, of The End is Nigh.
So jumping and running, you actually don't have a run button in the End is Nigh. You have a fast fall button, which is going to make a lot of difference, like in tiny optimization. But those tiny optimization will allow you to save a lot of time here and there. But at the start, the game is actually quite easy. You get used to the mechanics. You just jump, dodge the spikes, pay attention to the crumbling blocks, and you get to see that a lot of levels are actually built around like a shifting mechanic. The game is going to swing the level design around a little bit and get you to dodge moving blocks and falling blocks everywhere, and you have to deal with that all the time, knowing when you can go, how long you have to wait, and how careful you should be. Usually the first level, the first world, the end goes well for everybody. You see on the bottom part of the screen, Zigwigwi and Sally and the Mars are exactly tied. Ghost Death and Exodo are just a tiny bit behind, but not by much. So it's going to go great for all of them. Ghost Death taking a little death here, and dying is not too bad in the End is Nigh. You will die a lot, and it's okay, as long as it's not too much. You don't want to die like 250 times, but dying 25 times might be actually faster than being too careful and not dying, and dying only like 2 times.
The goal is going to be make a friend. That is sort of a really good stopping point for a race. There is a continuation of the game, and there's like a limited life system going through, and so you collecting a certain amount of lives as you play, detouring for those lives. I guess it does make for an interesting dynamic in terms of safety speed trade-off, but it is just too risky, and this is already by far the hardest Ultimate Decathlon season, so we are going to be stopping it off at making a friend, which means we are going to be visiting the machine, the SS Exodus, and Golgotha. Those are the 3 sort of final areas where you pick up a piece of your friend. For now, the players are in the arid flats, still keeping it very close. Exodo is going to be the strongest runner of the bunch in the End is Nigh. But who was it? It's
They took
Zigwigwi has been working hard on the End is Nigh and Shovel Knight for Shovel Knight for obvious reasons, but the End is Nigh, he identified this as something he wanted to work on. So we'll see if it pays off. Right now he's a little bit behind some of the other players, Ghost Death and Sailing Demars, both on this frog baiting level, and Exodo and Zigwigwi pretty close together. Exodo just trailing behind, is the furthest behind. Yeah, looking at the timers, okay, this makes more sense. Exodo's timer's about 10 seconds behind, so, but still, more than 10 seconds behind Ghost Death and Sailing Damar, so is not our leader, as you might expect looking at their personal bests.
Yeah, so the End is Nigh, a lot of tiny loads between each screen, so like Cuphead, for fairness, everybody is going by in-game time. So the timer automatically removes the time where the game does nothing and just prevents you from going fast. So it's all fair. It's the same timer for everyone. And Ghost Death gets to overflow first. So this is the last of our 3 easy worlds. Overflow is not that easy because you have to deal with the water physics, but it's not too bad still. You can swim for a long time in that clean water. It's not going to be the case for too long. Those few levels are actually the only instance of clean water in the End is Nigh. After that, the water is going to kill you after 3 ticks. So yeah, just enjoy as long as it exists. And yeah, everybody's there with Ghost Death. Well, right now, starting now, the water is going to kill you. You're going to see Ash or Hero blink 2 times, and on the 3rd blink, you just explode.
Yeah, the water seems to be the enemy lately. The hurricanes are acting up. It's that time of year. Hopefully, water's not going to be a problem for our players today or anyone else around the world. Mother Nature pretty destructive force, but not as destructive as some of our players today, looking very strong. Racing thing. We're looking at the same screen from Exodo, Sailing to Mars, and Ziguigui. Sailing to Mars dropping back a little bit. Ghost Death holding on to this lead. Poison Gas Clouds, same thing as Poison Water. Look for those 3 ticks. The players certainly are going to be looking for them, or maybe not. Maybe you just focus on moving the way you move and knowing that your route is designed to avoid that 3rd tick. It might actually be more distracting thinking about it than not thinking about it. That's definitely something I found when I was playing this game.
Yeah, that's learning the End is Nice speedrunning is all about like knowing what to ignore in the level design and knowing exactly where to grab onto and not letting anything to your reaction, or do not try to save yourself. You'll see the runners, if they do something wrong, they will just like quickly reset the screen and go for the strats they know. It's pretty interesting to see that dynamic into a UD run, because you cannot do that on any other game of the UD6. If you make any mistake in Shovel Knight, you have to deal with that mistake. You cannot like quickly reset and revert to the checkpoint. That would be too costly. And it's, different dynamics, different games, very short, and the game is not too punitive. The end is nice. It's just about repetition. If you died on one screen, you might very well die again just because something is tripping you up. So you have to be very careful and very thorough with your learning so you can like race the game consistently. And everybody so far is doing great. Ziguigui caught up with pretty much everyone, got the nice cycle here. They're one screen behind Silent the Mars and Exodo, but still, it's okay. And Ghost Death is, a little bit ahead, but not by much.
He's looking really strong. Everyone racing through a really tough section. There's sort of 3 spokes and 2 parts to each one. And the first part is generally much easier than the second part, which is not to say it's easy, but easier. But the Wall of Sorrow is definitely the hardest of those 3. And these birds that we're seeing now from Ghost Death are definitely part of the reason why. He is actually not even opting for the cool bird ride stuff. He's just going without it. And he's in a tough situation now. Nice. Baiting that bird near the exit to the right rather than to the left. Very important maneuver. Otherwise, it was going to be camping right in front of the exit. Also off screen. Hard to tell where it is, what it's going to do. Didn't want to have to deal with it. So nice job baiting him out there.
It is probably one of the hardest screens. Those 2 birds you can see on Ziguigui on the bottom left. Having to deal with those jerks is actually like pretty tough, and knowing how the birds behave is just incredibly painful. They're hard to predict, and they just killed Exodo. Exodo supposedly should be in first place right now, and according to PB, and they're having a lot of trouble on the end is nice, so they cannot let that happen because there are only like 20 points ahead of Ziguigui, and 20 points, that's a decent amount, but that's pretty easy to lose in the UD6.
Stanley DeMar struggling with this level that Exodo just finished, but he does get a really nice bird ride all the way through that level, and he is going to be done with those little feathered fiends. Ghost Death with an awkward death there, just kind of slipping off the edge of a cloud he didn't expect to be on, and then had an opportunity to save himself, but when you don't expect to be falling in the first place and you hold the direction that was going to get you back on the cloud, but you've already fallen off the cloud, so now you're falling away from the next cloud and just perfectly dodge all the platforms on your way down. Kind of just how it goes sometimes. But he has now reached the end of the Wall of Sorrow, riding that elevator up to the SS Exodus, sailing to Mars, pretty close behind Exodo, who is just now jumping up to this level that Ziguigui just finished. And that jump was not quite going to connect. Ghost Death with a pretty tricky cannonball jump sequence coming up here.
Yeah, so those 3 cannons you're supposed to dodge and not ride. You have 2 or 3 screens on the right side of the screen to get up there, but they nicely got double jumps and using the cannonballs and got up there nicely. It is one of the those very tricky things to learn when you are just starting to the speedrun. You don't go for that zigwigwi, going for the same thing, very cleanly bounces off the 3 cannonballs and get there right behind Ghost Death. It is very close, but that's not unusual. The time difference between runners usually in the Andes night race is not that big entering the SS Exodus. What's important is to see at what time they will leave that world, because it is one of the hardest ones in the run, and you can die a lot on the SS Exodus.
Yeah, for sure. You will see the difference between a weaker and a stronger racer of this game really start to become apparent in the Exodus and also in the machine. There's a bit of a break in retrograde where they'll probably be much closer in terms of the spread between the two of them, or two hypothetical runners. But it is really these harder stages where it's not even about the small optimizations so much as it is just the consistency of getting through these really tough screens without those deaths or minimal deaths. Some of them are particularly punishing. They're quite long, involving snaking around here and there on one screen, so you don't have checkpoints mid-screen, basically. So some are longer than others, and some of them are also tougher than others. And combined, you can get some pretty nasty deaths. One death, not too bad, but in some cases, one death can be quite costly. And hopefully the players are going to be avoiding those in particular. Any screen with a gun shooting at it, the way they shoot so fast, the way they flicker is very distracting. Almost any screen with a gun is a candidate for one that can be a problem. One catches Ghost Death just there.
Wow, he's going for the harder strat on that falling block screen. On the same screen as Ghost Death right now. This is like crazy good for them. They caught up during the Exodus, which means they're going to do great. Fireman is doing great as well, as expected. Quick is just going full ham. They're already done with Exodus. This is insane. The pace Quick is going at is crazy good. And once again, as you said, being first or fourth today doesn't matter, but mentally you are going to be such in a great position if you can manage to get like every single game so well. So they have to keep that going just for their own sake, and it's good motivation to see that your work paid off. So Zigwigwi and Ghost Death are also done with the Exodus. And on the same screen, waiting slowly for the same cycle here. Oh, Zigwigwi taking a big death here, sadly.
Yeah, it has an opportunity to make up a lot of ground. It's possible to not wait on these cycles, but you need to be so good with your fast falls, canceling just as you get above the height so that you will land on those I don't know what I guess they're rocks, but they're spaced apart in a weird way. They're clearly not touching. They're very much floating in some sort of invisible mortar connecting those rock bridges, but whatever they are, it's very unclear just where your sprite is and where their line is and when to press the fast fall button. But if you get that tricky timing down, you can go right through without waiting, and it does save quite a bit. Exodo was going for it, but hesitated. Or noticed some hesitation and was able to course correct. So that is pretty cool. A lot of players would probably just die after a missed input like that, but experience of Exodo showing off. Then yeah, this is
Ghost Death.
Nice. I haven't seen that before. Just shaving off the top block rather than cutting out part of the middle.
Yeah, I feel like this is the intended way to go for the level. I'm not sure though. You have that stack of blocks and you have to make your way through the level. Zigwigwi always had trouble with that screen, but got nicely through, and that screen is actually giving a hard time to Ghost Death here. It is pretty hard to dodge those bullets. As you said, the gun shoots pretty fast, and the game is built around just like getting back into bashing your own head into a bullet that was thrown at you a couple of seconds before. It's pretty mean, and you haven't seen the machine guns yet.
Yeah, the guns in the machine, which I guess machine guns would,
Yeah.
they fire appropriately fast for a machine gun. We'll get a look at them in just a little bit. Ziguigui might show them to us as he's the first one to reach the machine, overtaking Ghost Death. Though he did get hung up on some of these, I guess they're conveyor belts. They're on a wall, but they're still moving the way conveyor belts move. Navigating some of these disappearing platforms is another thing that the machine has. It also has these really bizarre water tractor gravity beams, and there's a little trick for maintaining more speed than you should by keeping the fast fall button pressed, so players are going to be able to sort of launch themselves out of these beams in a way that's not intended, lets you get around some corners and some nice shortcuts. And it's mostly just like it's definitely faster in a lot of cases, but it just improves your consistency at navigating these rooms more than anything.
Yeah, it's not easy to do, and it's very useful. On the next screen we'll see on Ziguigui's feed, but they died a couple of times here, and sadly, like, it is not easy to navigate those beams. But yeah, it is something you have to get used to, and even when you're used to it, it's not that easy to manipulate. So Ghost Death had trouble with it. Ziguigui died there a couple of times, and they have to work on that room. That if you die here, you are going to lose a lot of time. And yeah, usually runners do die exactly at the end, but they're recovered pretty well here. And Ghost Death is just taking their time, going very slow, been making sure they won't die, and it's going well for them. Axoto and Cylinder Mars are right behind, high-fiving each other there, and the machine is arguably the hardest world of the category. It's up there with Exodus, at least.
Yeah, I think so. Golgotha maybe has the hardest single screen, but in terms of overall difficulty across the whole zone, my vote is for the machine, for sure. Ziguigui has done a great job of pulling ahead a little bit here of Ghost Death. They were on the same screen for just a little bit, but it is a pretty long screen. Has managed to put some distance between himself and Ziguigui Exodo. At the very end of a very long screen, going to be happy to be done. Sailing to Mars, starting that very same screen. Ziguigui is also on a pretty long one. Any screen where you have to go somewhere and then backtrack instantly becomes about twice as long as most other screens, and so the penalty for dying becomes that much more severe.
Ziguigui on one of those screens where you cannot save time. You just have to wait and make sure you will not take a spiky block to the face. They're doing a great job with that. Cylinder Mars is a little bit behind, and Exodo is one of the screens where you have to wait anyway. So the race is kind of set for now. Oh, Ziguigui taking a big death here. You don't want to die, and so does Ghost Death, dying a couple of times. Those screens are actually taking a big toll on runners. Ghost Death died 5 times already on that screen. This is a long screen, and you can save cycles by going like on some harder jumps, but it is insane to see those runners die so much on a single screen. And here is the best gun of the game. Like, they put all their gun budget on that single screen, and that one is crazy. Like, knowing how to once you know exactly what's the strat to go through the room, it's not that bad, but the first time you get there, it feels like it's impossible. But Ziguigui nicely beat the machine, got the soul, and he's making his way down to the Olos. It's probably the easiest of the worlds, out of the 6 end worlds, but still, it is kind of tricky. Some screens are have like insane fast strats, and once you know how to solve those puzzles where you have to latch onto a specific block to get the screen or the level moving, it's okay. But you have to get used to the darkness, and you have to know exactly where to land to dodge everything.
Zigwigwi was having a bit of trouble on one of the screens. Right about when you said it was the easiest world was when he started having a couple deaths. But is now way back on track. A couple screens just done pretty much flawlessly there. Sailing to Mars, dodging some of these Chain Chomp-like enemies, trying to catch up to Exodo, who is surprisingly behind here. Is the stronger runner of the bunch, of all 8 even competing today. Not by a whole lot, but by a margin that you would expect to see reflected in race results the way that it currently is not. But I have seen a thing or two that was kind of a hallmark of a more seasoned runner of this game, like that adjustment on those platforms in retrograde. So has been fun to watch Exodo race. We can see now that Fireman is in the lead, the first one to reach Golgotha. It leaps out from that bottom left corner as soon as we pull out to this 8-person view. Kerpuik on the hollow, so has been overtaken, but is still pretty far along, is almost going to be joining Zigwigwi in Golgotha as well, as he is our first player on stream to reach the final world of the goal. And it's looking like we're going to have some pretty good End Is Nigh runs. The cutoff for 200 points is at the 20-minute mark, so we're beyond that. But 200 is a huge ask for the End Is Nigh. Yeah. Most PBs are around the 160, 150 points, so we're talking 24, 25 minutes, and that's kind of where we're on pace for our top finishers right now.
Sub 20 actually feels like it's almost impossible. It's doable, but it feels like you have to put a lot of effort into learning and grinding the game, and you cannot die so much. And then the world record is at like 1830, and it's insane that you can optimize your jumps and your single tiny fast falls so much. But the 200 points on that game it's not something that's going to happen a lot during the UD, even during the finals, like the grand finals and ultimate finals. It's very unlikely a runner just succeed at every single thing they try. It's the End Is Nigh is one of those games where it's so precise, you are going to have to take your time, set up a little jumps here and there, and you're going to lose what makes the sub 20 possible.
Soto doing a good job baiting out those chain chomps before leaping past both of them. Zigwigwi tricking the block in that sequence to go high and not come back down is a nice little skip there, and is pretty far along. Only a couple screens left here in Golgotha. Is going to be cruising to the finish. Ghost Death is dealing with this ridiculous looking charging angry guy. I'm not sure. I think that's like the only screen where we're seeing some more right here, but they're pretty inconsequential on this stage compared to the previous one. Chain Chomp catching Sailing to Mars there, but is now back on track as Zigwigwi finishes 24:15 or so.
Nice
on the timer.
That's not far from their PB, I'd say. Zigwigwi's PB on the End Is Nigh is actually like 25:50. What happened? Like, nice. They clearly had some trouble on A Story About My Uncle, but apparently they worked pretty hard this week on the End Is Nigh. Fireman in chat also got a PB. So, wow, those two players got some practice done on the End Is Nigh, and it paid off. Sadly, in speedrunning, that's usually not the case. You will put a ton of time into a game, and it's not going to work so well during a race. But they got nice results, so that's awesome. Ghost Death is almost done as well with the game, so is Axoto. They are very close to each other. Ghost Death actually their timer is already at 25:15 when Axoto's timer is at 24:18. So it's a, not a lead. Like Gosdes is actually behind, even if the screen doesn't tell. Yeah, PB by a minute and 35 minutes for Ziguigui. That's insane.
The story gets even more crazy. As of 2 days ago, Ziguigui's time was a 27-minute time. Has been putting in some last effort, some last ditch effort to cram on this game, and it paid off in a big way. That is a massive PB improvement that is going to earn them a lot of points, and it's in a situation where they really need it. Ziguigui currently in 5th coming into this game, and that needs 20 points on Exodo, who has just now finished with a 24:52, is going to be making up some of those 20 points. It's not going to be quite enough to overtake him, but is going to be very close. And Exodo has a weakness or two coming up in these last few games. Ceiling DeMars is definitely the person who's going to struggle the most with inertia, but there are some players who are very good at inertia and some players who are just regular good at inertia. And then, of course, Shovel Knight is a huge question mark for a lot of runners. Ziguigui with a 92-point PB in Shovel Knight has done a fantastic job of clawing back some of those points, but is going to also need a similarly fantastic performance in Shovel Knight in order to keep up with runners through Game 5.
Yeah, it is going to be a nice finish, I'd say, as we see MC quickly going through the Olos, showing off some screens we did not necessarily had time to commentate, but those moving guys around like a chain in a circle, they're pretty easy to understand, but it's pretty hard to figure out what's a safe spot and what's not. It will trip you up a couple of times before you understand exactly how to go through those. And that fall here into the water is actually extremely hard. But MC got no hesitation diving into the water and got exactly the correct trajectory to go there. Remember, if you wait too long in the water, you will die. So you have to be spot on with your swimming. And those chain shots, pretty great.
Yeah, it can be a little hard to tell with the blue glow of the hollow, making the water seem like it's regular, friendly blue water, but it is not. It is that nasty orange, scary water. And now we've got a much scarier water. Is it even water? Who knows? It looks an awful lot like lava to me, and the fact that it kills you on contact seems to agree, as we see MC just showing that off for us. You only have to do it once, though, to get calm down, rally yourself as we move on through some of these early screens of Golgotha. This is Golgotha starts off fairly easy, especially compared to the other end areas where you pick up a piece of your friend. It's the Exodus and the Machine. It definitely starts off fairly tame compared to those, but there are a couple really nasty levels. This one in particular has this guy following you back and forth, and it can be wow. MC's really wants to get that something clean here at the start. Yeah, there we go.
If you don't, if you are just a tiny bit too slow, you will miss that jump, and then you have to deal with that guy. And if you are not trained, you do not want to do that. Here we go. Very nice. MC gets it on the 5th strike there. And those guys are just going to follow you around, and it's unlike the birds, they're pretty easy to understand and to manipulate. As soon as they are close to you, they will charge in a straight line, and sometimes that will put them in exactly where you want to go. So you have to be sure you are able to dodge them. Those spikes are pretty easy to dodge. The rhythm is fairly slow, but combined with the chain chomps, that makes up for the worst level in the game. Golgotha 14 here. You have to get the jumps exactly correct. You have to know where you will trigger the chain chomps or where you will not. And the rhythm between the chain chomps triggering and the spikes is different. So it is a nasty one, but MC gets there, gets the nice cycle, the nice trick here on the second try, dodges the cubes, and we are almost at 30 minutes. But in game time, it's probably a little bit less than that for MC.
Yeah, again, that we don't discriminate on who's got the best computer here on UD, so MC is free to compete with whatever computer they have, not quite getting up high enough to dodge the lava. This is the first time they've shown some of these hesitations and such, that they were looking so good. One death in Golgotha 14, and then right through a bunch of tricky levels towards the end. Afterwards, with those moving blocks, it was looking pretty good. That even with the loading times and whatever factored in, it looked like he was going to finish on stream, but not quite. I think he is still going to be able to finish. It is going to be close.
Yeah,
we'll take a look at the leaderboard when that run comes in. We'll also take a look at just how things have changed, how the runners off stream have done. We saw that our first and second place players were doing quite well, and now we can see we actually have a tie for first right now. Fireman and Kupuik sitting at 526 points. Ghost Death with not the greatest. The End is Nigh run has fallen down a little bit there. 30-point gap. Then another 20-point gap separating Exodo, who has set the bar at the cutoff point in fourth place. Ziguigui challenging Exodo, 14 points away now. Is pretty close. There's 2 games left. Ziguigui very weak on Shovel Knight compared to pretty much everyone else in the top 4. So that is going to be a scary moment. Sailing to Mars also not quite out of it yet. 45 points away from cracking that top 4. Is got a really strong Shovel Knight, and so this is something that could happen for our 5th and 6th place racers.
It is going to be a very nice one, but right before Inertia starts, we are going to take a short break, and then we are going to have to go as fast as possible through Inertia and Shovel Knight, because we have we had like some technical issue, but speed gaming is never stopping, so we have like some races coming up after like in an hour and a half. So I do encourage the runners to go and take a break as quickly as possible and speedrun everything they do in life. And we'll be back.
But stop quickly.
Yeah, we'll be back in 7 minutes at 45. It's going to be a nice small break, and we'll start Inertia right after this. And we're back with 2 remaining games. Everybody is amazed with how Quick has done so far. We've played through Cuphead, A Story About My Uncle, and The End is Nigh. What's your prediction for the 2 next game?
Well, my eyes are on, of course, the battle for 4th place. Exodo, Zigugui, and Salient to Mars. I mean, Ghost Death is pretty close as well. Our 2 leaders at 526 points with only 2 games left to go are looking like they're more or less a shoo-in. I mean, Shovel Knight's not over yet, so it's impossible to say anyone is a shoo-in, but as close as they can be, they are. So, between Exodo, Zigugui, and Salient to Mars, Zigugui has a pretty weak Shovel Knight, PB not over 100 points, so if he wants to get on the scoreboard with 100 points or more, needs to literally get another PB after already getting a PB by a large margin in The End is Nigh. Salient to Mars is going to need to come up pretty big in inertia. It only has 111 points, 1255, compared to some of the players boasting 200 point times. So Exodo, the one who he's competing against, has a 163 point time. So Salient to Mars is going to be playing from behind in a big way on inertia, and then the same for Zigugui on Shovel Knight. So both of these runners are going to have some challenges, challenging Exodo and perhaps Ghost Death for the top 4. Can they do it in these next 2 games? Can the other top 4 players hold on and play the way that that we know they can, or will they succumb to this pressure? Is what remains to be seen. And the first game they're going to do battle in is going to be Inertia. We took a look at it there. Predictions, though, it's hard to say. I honestly think our top 4 as they stand are probably going to be our top 4 when we're done, if I had to guess. But I would not put money on it because there's a couple of things that can happen in Inertia in Shovel Knight, especially with Salient to Mars having a very strong Shovel Knight. That can go a long way.
It's Shovel Knight is going to be very, very important. And Zigugui has a 750 on inertia.
Right.
To be fair, if they just get to that time, we've never seen sub 8 on a race. I think sub 9 is very, very good. Sub 10 is where you want to be at in a race, but usually the players are going to be between 10 and 12. Would be a PB for Salient to Mars, and Salient to Mars need to get there, and if they do, they will be looking very great with a strong Shovel Knight. If Zigugui gets a crazy good time on inertia, they will just have to beat the game on time, on Shovel Knight on time to get there. So it is intense. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And inertia, it's a fast-paced first-person platformer. It's very hard, but I like that game a lot as a viewer. It has a nice sense of flow, and you can tell when someone is falling just off and if it's going to make it or not. So it's a nice watch. There are 32 level, and you can see on the top right corner for every runner where they are at. So Zigugui so far is in first place, sailing through those first easy levels. You just have to remember where to land and go as straight as possible. But the game gets very complicated very fast, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that there is a surprising amount of complexity in even the most simple jumps. The first level is just a straight shot. There's no turning at all. You don't need to really touch the mouse. But just timing the double jumps to land appropriately on the platforms, with how small they are and the incredible speed at which you move in this game, is non-trivial. It takes some finesse, and then once you start factoring in things like having to aim where you jump, how you round corners, whether or not you chain jumps together with a bunny hop style movement, And even some of the crazy stuff like flicking your camera around to trick the game into thinking you're strafing. The wall runs, these all just layer on top of what is already a very difficult to control game. So high precision requirement in this game, and under the fast pressure, like it's a short game, so 3 seconds is a point. Your time, your points, you can feel them ticking away in this game, and under that pressure it can be very easy to miss a jump, and then once you miss that jump, you're thinking about that jump again when you go the second time around. And we have seen players get caught up in a couple levels trying to find their way through a particular jump, and we'll see if that starts to happen to any of our players today.
Yeah, it is. Axero is having some difficulties, but get there. San de Mars is on the 4th place out of four players, but that's to be expected. The only goal for San de Mars is to beat the game on time. That's it. They just have to get there fast enough, and that should be, Zigwigwi on the other end has to go as fast as possible, and so far there are only one level ahead of Ghost Death, so that's a little bit worrisome, but that lead could tumble into an even bigger one later down the road, because we are just starting to get to the harder levels. The 14, 15 levels have like a nice pack of difficulty, and then it's right at the end where the difficulty actually spikes up around like between level 23 and 29. You have a nice ramp of very difficult levels you have to go through. But so far, no major difficulty for the Gwigwi, except, of course, as soon as they say that, they die a couple of times.
That's just how it goes sometimes. Ghost Death now joining Zigwigwi on 16. Right side of the screen, both Exodo and Sailing Demars were on 14, but Exodo just sailed straight through the exit door, is now caught in between our runners on stream. 16 is a pretty tough level. It's also got one of those sliding sequences. The players have bound their slide and jump buttons to the same button. So every jump they do is actually a frame perfect slide jump, which is why they go so darn fast. That's jumping out of a slide kicks you up to roughly 3 times your regular max run speed. And it's not too hard to manually slide and then jump and get the same result, but it certainly vastly improves your consistency to use the keybind that the runners are doing, and it only hurts you just a little bit in any sequence that forces you to slide through a gap, because you're awkwardly doing weird slide jumps and vibrating through the hole instead of cleanly sliding through it. It's a small price to pay for the consistency, and consistency is hard to find in this game. So the players treasure it. They use these keybinds, and they do their best to reproduce their routes through these levels. The slideshow is due to technical difficulties that's been plaguing us since the start of the stream. They come, they go, and we are working on it. But I know it's a tough game to follow when it skips around. Pay attention to the color scheme of the level, particularly the top right as well. We'll show you the exact level number that the players are on. Right now, Ghost Death and Zigwigwi are pretty much neck and neck here in level 21, and then a fair gap between both of them and our players on the right, Exodo and Salian Demars.
So when you are starting to learn the game, what gives the most trouble is probably the wall jumps. It's the mechanic is weirdly implemented, so you cannot wall jump everywhere, wall run everywhere, and you have to know exactly where you can wall run and where you cannot. And if you are too high, close to the ceiling might suck you in and get you stuck. So it's the game is not flawless regarding its control, and sometimes it can get like difficult to get used to everything. But so far it's working quite well for the runners. Ghost Death get onto that nice open level, running onto the side wall there to cut the level and decrease its difficulty. But Zigwigwi is already done with level 25 here. We can see the exit on the screen, and they should get in there quickly. 26 is 20. Oh, wow, they fell as I was saying that. Damn. The start of 25 is horrendous, but they got nicely there. And 26, 27 are probably some of the level that trip the runners the most. But it's 29. That's probably the most difficult level in the entire game. And that's where the game really gets easier if you use the speedrunning control, because binding, sliding, and jumping at the same time actually helps quite a lot.
Yeah, 29 is the one that I'm always looking for once that counter starts to get into the 20s, when you start to see that that neon green. We're not quite there yet. 1 to go. Zigwigwi waiting for this platform to get to the height that he needs it to be at. Ceiling to Mars now in level 23 and is not going to have enough height to go for that ceiling walk. Ghost Death, when he did that walk, had a bit of trouble transitioning out of it. Actually, took some time to line up a jump and get back down safely. And so it ended up probably not being much faster. But I think really going for that corner is more about the consistency than the speed. Zigwigwi now landing on the ledge in 29. That's kind of the key point of the level, is coming off that spring and finding one of those many platforms on the wall, and then landing there on that itty bitty little platform is what level 29 is all about. So Zigwigwi, making it look easy, has recovered from some earlier stumbles, and this is exactly what he needs. He needs to pick up a ton of points on inertia, where he is strong, because he is not strong on Shovel Knight, and he is up against some pretty strong players.
Yeah, it's going great so far, but as I was saying earlier, the sub 8 never happened, and we are already at 8:35 on their timer, and it's doable. Those runners have sub 8 PBs, but when you see such a good race, I do wonder where they lost so much time. You see some mistakes here and there, but it always feels like they're not so costly, and they just add up. But Zigwigwi so far got a nice inertia race, and once again, it's like San de Mars. San de Mars could beat the game on time, and they're already at the level 26 there, so it's still going strong. And Zigwigwi could be able to beat Shovel Knight on time, so it's pretty very open. So yeah, it's all going to go down to a Shovel Knight who's able to beat the game in under 65 minutes, and who cannot.
Final time is going to be sub 10, about a 9:38 or so is going to be our first finish on stream. Off stream, both Fireman and Krupwikpwik, our number 1 and 2 players, have already finished. They're probably going to continue to stay number 1 and number 2, both players looking very good today. But where we're mostly concerned is how this battle between 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th is going to go. Top 4 are going to move on to next weekend's grueling gauntlet to see who will move on to grand finals. And right now it's Exodo setting the bar in 4th place. And he's struggling a little bit here with inertia. I can't tell if that's 25 or 26 that he's in, but I guess I'll find out here. Then, yeah, that was 25. So yep. He's got some levels to go here. We're already at 10.5 minutes. And the cutoff for inertia is at 13:30. 3 minutes for 10, or not 10, 5 or 6.
Yeah,
pretty difficult levels. It's doable, but if he keeps playing the way he is, he's going to be cutting it really close.
I'm worried now for Exodo. Exodo got his PB is 10:20. It's actually pretty good, but they're far off the mark here. Their PB on Shovel Knight is super strong, but so is San de Mars, and San de Mars is actually on level 30 already, so 3 levels ahead of Exodo, and Exodo has to beat the game on time, so it's now super close between all those runners. MC is on level 27 as well, getting to level 28 shortly. Oh no, they fell right before the end.
That's one of those heartbreaking moments that can be hard to recover from. It's hard to compartmentalize what just happened,
Ooh.
understand what just happened and what you need to do, but also not to dwell on it and worry about it and let that affect your play. So we'll see if how these players are able to deal with that phenomenon. It definitely happens in many different speedrun events and many different games, but I think this game, like A Story About My Uncle, is definitely up there with, I guess, with Spectra Ball. I think all three of them have a similar quality with dwelling on the mistakes that just happened. Level 29 now for Exodo is starting to come alive a little bit. Is through the hard part. Needs to land on this platform and does.
Yes, that's good. A minute to beat, minute and 15 seconds to beat the 3 final levels. That's doable, but they cannot like slip on any platform. San Mars is having a lot of troubles on those final levels, and they're taking their time, setting every single jump, and it's worrisome. San Mars entering 31. Exodo started 30 over again, and yeah, it's not possible for them
No,
anymore.
that's not going to
Wow,
happen. 30
that's
seconds.
unexpected.
Exodo has a good time in this game. The question mark was Cuphead, and he had a really good Cuphead. It turned out we weren't sure because it was just blank on the leaderboard. Inertia was not blank on the leaderboard for Exodo. Has a 10:19 personal best, but just unable to make it happen in a race. He's not the first one to struggle with inertia in a race, and he
Wow,
won't be the last. But this is when he really needed it.
Sound Mars is going to beat the game with a final time of 13:40, and
Or
look,
so.
the time is just there, and they're not going
That
to
was
be
the
able to
exit
beat the
right
game.
there.
It's wow, this is not the finish I was expecting at all. Both Axoto and San Mars not finishing on time, but do remember they have very strong Shovel Knight, and Zigwigwi finished inertia, so it will appear like they're very far ahead, but they do not have a sub 65 Shovel Knight, so it's going to be down to who does the best on Shovel Knight. If Zigwigwi does not beat the game on time, it's going to be an interesting result there.
Yeah, I want to see the leaderboard to see, what kind of numbers we're working with, but first we can take a look at the wonderful game that is Shovel Knight that we're going to be playing. Fantastic music and look and play and feel, and man, it's Shovel Knight. Shouldn't need any introduction. But all our games have fantastic intro videos, and Shovel Knight's no exception. Hats off to the video crew. UD's some of the best in productions in terms of speedrun events. But it's all about the players and what they're able to produce today. Once we take a look at those leaderboards, for sure we're going to see Fireman and Caprique continue to stay at the top of the leaderboard. Ghost Death was looking pretty solid as well, sort of establishing the third place. It's really all about fourth place. What's happened to Exodo failing to finish? Salient Demars and Zigwigwi. Was inertia good enough? Did Zigwigwi put himself in a good enough position that even if he doesn't finish Shovel Knight, what happens? Let's see. Exodo 475. So a finish in Exodo and a non-finish for Zigwigwi will flip the tables here, and Salient Demars is going to need the Shovel Knight of his life to make anything happen here.
It's not possible, actually. They need over 200 points. It's way further than I expected. Zigwigwi got an incredible inertia, and that ruled them off, sadly. But Exodo needs a 170 Shovel Knight and to Zigwigwi not to beat the game on time. So Exodo's PB is, let's see, 146. So yeah, that does not sounds likely, and that's an incredible finish. Like Exodo failing on inertia is like nobody expected that, and it's heartbreaking, to be honest.
Yeah, things were shaping up to be quite interesting with several players in contention for this fourth place spot. And Exodo wasn't even necessarily one of them because we figured they were going to take such a huge hit on Cuphead. And then first game, Cuphead, Exodo comes out of the gate with a fantastic run and immediately establishes themselves as one of the players to be competing for this fourth place spot. Continued that pattern all the way through the first three games, but has fallen in inertia here. Exodo has a decent Shovel Knight, 146 points with just under a 58-minute time. If they were to reproduce that, it's going to be maybe enough. I need to see that leaderboard again. Yeah.
It is shaping to be very interesting because I was like the four players that are currently top four are we can see Zigwig, Gusdes, Exodo, and Istrom right now on stream. So Gusdes, Zigwig, Quick, and Fireman were like theoretically the best runners, but over the 10 games, not the 5 games we're doing today, and Silent de Mars and Exodo were looking very strong during the entire day, and I did not expect out of all of the games for UD6 to be inertia, to be the big like gatekeeper today. Shovel Knight usually gets that part, except like during the August tournament was not at all the case, where kind of nobody beat the game on time. It was like the last game everybody needed to get onto. And the story for next weekend is going to be pretty crazy because everybody involved, like all 8 players we can see today, worked quite hard on all the UD6 games and got like super strong PBs. Clearly, Quick is having the tourney of his life, got like super strong times on multiple games, and yeah, it is an interesting one. So everybody is entering their name, and we are getting ready for Shovel Knight to start.
Exodo is going to need somewhere in the neighborhood of 54.5 minutes ish, 54:45, something like that, and then needs Zigwigwi to post a DNF here. Now, considering Exodo's personal best in Shovel Knight is a 57:58, we're talking about a almost 4-minute PB required is what is required for Exodo to come back, and that's assuming Zigwigwi doesn't even finish. If Zigwigwi finishes, he locks the door. Our top 4 is decided. But really, we can take a look at all these players, these lovely players who have come out to compete today. But at this point, in terms of progression through this tournament, your eyes should be on the top right of the screen. Will Zigwigwi finish and lock out Exodo? Or in the bottom left corner of the screen, will Exodo start the game? I highly recommend starting the game in order to race in a speed run. I'm sure this is some kind of, if it's not a stream delay error or some other error, it's something that will be corrected, but it is going to throw off our timings. We might see Exodo have a fantastic run, and then we're not even sure how many points Exodo gets. So that's a little unfortunate, but we can try to get a feel for just how well the run is going. The players are now going through the second half. Most of them are going through the second half of the planes here, the opening level. We're going to see maybe a bubble wrap from Ghost Death.
Nope, not
going right through.
And actually, I think that's a smart choice because so many players struggle with that bubble wrap. It's not saving so much time, to be honest. You should like just do. It's like a story about my uncle. You know, those sections everybody like underestimated, and finally everybody is going for the safer and wiser route. The bubble wrap, we are going to see more of it during the grand finals, I estimate. Maybe even some during the last chance tourney, where our last chance heroes will rise from like everybody's surprise. I don't know. We'll see how well it goes. But today, no bubble wrap. Ghost Death is already done with Black Knight. Ziggy got a nice stun lock, but had difficulty to set it up. Istrom is having lots of troubles there, but gets a nice shovel cancelling going, and stun locks the boss to get a nice feat. I'm alive accomplished. I don't know what is. Maybe it's the don't die in the first level.
Or maybe it's not a good sign if this is the first time you've unlocked that achievement.
Maybe it's just like got reset their achievements recently.
Their profile, yeah. Could be. It could be they were playing on the standalone version, and this is the first time they're playing on the Steam version, or who knows. But Ghost Death had a moment during that Black Knight fight where Black Knight was about to escape the stun lock, which is, it's the player's fault. That you can totally, as long as you do your thing, he can't get out of it. But after letting him escape, Ghost Death had this really clutch sort of denial where he was able to jump up and knock Black Knight down out of a high jump and get him back in the corner and continue the lockdown. So that was pretty cool to see. Ghost Death is definitely one of the stronger runners in Shovel Knight of the pack. Exodo now done with the Black Knight fight as well. Looked like it went pretty well for him. The other players are all racing through the King Knight stage and looking pretty good as well.
So we have a nice Shovel Knight speedrunning puzzle going on. With Ziggy dying there. But it brings me to my point. Ziggy did not break the checkpoints there, whereas actually Ghost Death did. So what do you think the two players' route is going to be like?
I think Ghost Death has been playing very aggressive, just as a general pattern across all the games today. Some of the damage boosts in Cuphead and just some of the way he was approaching some of the jumps in Inertia, just seems to be his style. I don't know if it comes from his background as a competitive gamer or what, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. But that's where he's at. He's a sort of a Mel West style sort of player, and I think we're going to see a lot of risk taking from Ghost Death. It's not going to get crazy with it probably, but definitely wouldn't be surprised to see like a 6 health route from Ghost Death, Conjurer's Coat, and that whole shebang. And from Ziggy, I think probably would see the full 10 health. I don't know if someone's going to go 10 health, no Conjurer's Coat, but that could also be, a possibility with a runner like Ziggy, who's very interested in going very safe. Ghost Death done with the King Knight fight. I didn't even get a look at it, but I didn't see any confetti, so it was definitely at least a solid fight.
So yeah, for those who don't know, last time we've done Shovel Knight on stream during the August tournament. The bar was at 60 minutes. It got raised to 65 minutes because first it was an unfair one. Upper for the faster runner, the scores weren't reflecting that how fast they were going, and for the lower runners around the 60 minutes, the consensus was that players got too scared about that and it pushed them to make mistakes, and raising the bar to 65 minutes actually gets better results of our players. So the idea of the cutoff is not to punish the runners, it's just like so everybody is encouraged to rather get decent at all 10 games rather than just grind one game and get, you know, lower scores at the other 9 ones. So it's just for balance purposes, but it's not a punition. So it got raised a little bit, so it's even fairer for everybody. But it does not make the leech yard easier, especially on those dark levels. The leech yard is clearly a difficulty spike in the run. It's not the only one, but those spike ceilings here and those moving blocks here, we've seen some players die, and Ghostdeath, even with his aggressive playstyle, is taking it slowly here, taking his time to kill the frog, and you know, being super careful not to die.
Even hesitating, jumping to raise the platform at the end as high as possible. Doesn't want to have anything weird happen with that ladder, not with an instant death pit below. Exodo, King Knight fight didn't go so great. We saw some confetti. Had to spend a little bit tracking down the King Knight fight. Very tricky. Getting your shovel attacks out such that the knockback from hitting him keeps you in front of him as he jumps towards you, timing your jumps with his, particularly timing your pogo for the double pogo on the high jump. There's a lot of finesse, very tricky fight, so it's definitely something where you would expect a weaker runner to not quite get the quick kill or the not so quick kill. It would be the whatever is slower than that, the not at all quick kill. But there are some other bosses where you can not go for the craziest stuff, but still get some pretty good results. And hopefully Exoda can find some of that, because it's not going to be just a good Shovel Knight run that gets Exodo into that 4th place spot. It has to be a great Shovel Knight run. And so I don't know if that means putting yourself in weird situations, trying things you haven't tried before. I feel like that's a recipe for disaster, but you do have to push yourself to some degree. He needs a really big PB in order to make it happen here.
Yeah, mentally that's not an easy situation, because you have to balance the fact that you have to take a risk, and when you speedrun, you know exactly your limits. So going for harder strats is not something you can just go for. You usually do not even know how to go for them. So it's not so easy. Just go like, yeah, try to go faster. It's actually like try to make something happen that you never made work so far. So it's it has to get something crazy going. Or is at the point where he got like crazy good strat down, but never got them like in a deathless run or something like that. But it's pretty unlikely.
Yeah, players tend to, in Shovel Knight, they kind of pick a route that suits them, but we've definitely seen players adjust and change their route over time as they get more comfortable with the game, or they feel the need to push it further. It's pretty rare that players go all out on Shovel Knight the first time they learn. It's generally it's the biggest game in the UD. It has the most to learn. Some of that stuff is really hard. Most of the boss kills very precise. It's very intimidating. So a lot of players, are scared away from doing all of the crazy stuff that you can do in this game, and it becomes a habit to find the compromise. And so that's kind of where most players end up early on in their Shovel Knight speedrunning career.
Exodo is having a lot of troubles with Spectre Knight. Got nice juggle here, but yeah, this is a slow fight. Finally makes it happen. Ziggugi got to the Dream, and Ghostdeath is actually not stopping for anything. He's going to buy the Chaos Orb here, most likely. It is a very strong weapon, cleans off some bosses and some screens nicely. It's just a little bit less reliable. than the Flame Wand, and it's probably the Flame Wand that Zigwigwi is going for. I do not even know if Zigwigwi is going for the Conjurer's Coat, to be honest. When you are at like above 60 minutes PB, I would maybe not recommend it. I do not know. Maybe the 10 health Conjurer's Coat is safe enough, but gets you used to the Conjurer's Coat.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I do know that Ghost Death picked up a mana upgrade, as well as the up to the 6 health and a Chaos Orb. Zigwigwi also opting for the Chaos Orb. Eastrom had a death to King Knight, so is trailing a little bit behind Zigwigwi, but is not too far behind in this town section. Zigwigwi up to 6 health. Fully expect our runners today to at least get to 6 health. Some of our boldest runners in the UD may opt for 4.
That's not the wise choice.
I don't think so. Yeah, I do not recommend it, but maybe it's just maybe Mel West might.
I'd like to see someone go for that, because do remember that in the UD the runners are not Shovel Knight experts. We said, hey, what if you run Shovel Knight along with all those 9 other games, and they went for it. So it's not the grand experience you are usually seeing from runners, and anything that takes away your chances to survive is like very costly in the UD, like way more than in a standard speedrun. So it is a big risk to take. You have to take into account that dying might cost you, like the result of the UD is not strictly equal to the sum of its parts. So the risk you take in Shovel Knight might have an impact on all your other runs, weirdly enough. So it's a big trade. But so far in the Lost City, it's going nice for all runners. Ghost Death is getting his Dust Knuckles. And the Lost City is not an easy one, just because all those parts you are trailing with lava, and lava obviously kills you in one hit. So it's the runners will take their time usually. And some jumps are trickier than it looks.
Normally, this is where we see our first death here in the Lost City. We saw 2 in Pridemore Keep in the King Knight stage. One to a killer chandelier, and one to King Knight himself. But yeah, the lava and the tricky stuff you need to do with these green globules, the beetle ride sections. There's just a lot that can go wrong in the Mole Knight stage, and it hasn't gone wrong for anyone yet. So it's been for that reason alone, it has been a great Lost City for these players. It's hard to ask for much more. Exodo is going to be the first one to die in this stage, hopefully the last. Not too bad. The checkpoint was right there. Is going to be able to retrieve most of this money. I don't think he's getting that other bag back, so that is a problem.
Yeah, money is very tight in Shovel Knight. The route involves you breaking all the checkpoints and pretty much gathering all the money you can, so you can buy all the health upgrade and the armor and the magic you are going to use in the run. And if you do not have the magic or the health you're used to have, it actually changes quite a lot, the run. So right now they need 3k to buy the Dust Knuckles. And next is later, so they will have time to recover, maybe break an extra checkpoint, and they'll be set.
It's always scary to be breaking checkpoints that you're used to being able to rely on. Not that you ever want to die and rely on a checkpoint, but the comfort of knowing it's there and the discomfort of knowing it's not there could certainly be a factor. But it is very crucial that Exodo was able to hit that 3k mark right there. If he had to do some sort of scramble for the Dust Knuckles, or go without, that's a problem. Dust Knuckles are important in a speedrun because they're a movement option. They give you a lot of ways to move around a stage. They give you ways to move through enemies, like we're seeing from Exodo right there. And so without them, what would you do in that room when you're used to just dust knuckling straight through that guy? You need to figure out some other way to deal with it. So going without dust knuckles is a horrible situation, and it's very important. Exodo was able to avoid it. Taking a look at some of our other players, Mole Knight down for Caprique, Fireman still in the Lost City. So our top two leaders trailing Ziguigui and Ghost Death. Sailing to Mars also done with Mole Knight, and MC is a little bit behind Exodo, but not too far behind. So the runner's still fairly close through the first third or so of Shovel Knight.
Ziguigui must feel pretty great being ahead of Fireman, as they don't have a PB yet. That means that at least they have a good... Oh, wow! That recovery. Okay, I saw them actually die there. And
no recovery for Ghost
Death. It's incredible because the Explodatorium is a very bad place to die, and it's pretty frequent. That corridor here, you have those birds dropping bombs on you, literally, and it's easy just to die. The knockoff Shovel Knight is pretty great, and you will have to deal with it, and you do not have the mean to sometimes. So we've seen that death multiple times, and they recovered and did not die on the second attempt, and recovered all their money nicely. So it was actually not too bad. Oh, and Exodo died at the start of the level. That one is unlikely. Is pretty rare.
Yep, this is that's a bad sign when you die in like a weird place and you're just left with questions like why, how did that happen? That's an ugly feeling that can be hard to get rid of. So hopefully Exodo is able to do that. Ghost Death struggled with the mini boss a little bit. Ziguigui, no struggles at all, finishes him very far on the right side of the screen, though he was pretty liberal with his Chaos Orbs there to make that happen. It is possible to get some really good shovel cancels going to keep that boss on the right side of the screen, but Ziguigui trailing Ghost Death just a little bit, and he's got to be really happy about being so close to a player who's got such a good PB in Shovel Knight. We're seeing Ghost Death is lining up something pretty cool here and not quite able to get it. Going to have to go the long way. I'm not sure if Ziguigui is even going to go for this strat. It's pretty finicky. It's not too bad. It's the kind of thing that you could even just try to wing it and maybe get it. It's not that precise, but it is the kind of thing that a player is likely to cut out in their run. So I guess we'll take a look here. It's Ziguigui.
Nope.
Gets set up, and nope, he's going straight through.
Yeah. If you're not sure you're going to make it work, you're going to lose time. You have to set up the a doppelganger pretty precisely, and you have to jump at the correct time, so it jumps on the tiny sand block. And yeah, overall it's not too precise, but when you're going to lose time if you fail, it's something that's maybe easy to cut off. So Aestrom is going for a different route and not going for the Explodatorium first, and Ziguigui is entering the fight as Ghost has just finished it. So the time difference is not too big, and yeah, it looks like Ziguigui should be able to beat the game on time, to be honest.
Yeah, I think his pace is quite good. Had one weird death in Pridemoor's keep, but the checkpoint was right there, was able to get all the money back, so all told is still on a very good run. Plague Knight has done a really good job of chewing through almost the entire battleground. Ziguigui finally finding the kill, but importantly finding the kill before Plague Knight does. Exodo on the mini-boss now, able to get those shovel hits to take down the boss. Ghost Death going shopping. We are seeing Conjurer's Coat. I suspect he also got the charge handle, though I didn't see it. And the question is, are we going to stay at 6 health, or are we going to go back for more later on?
It's big question actually, because my answer would be like, oh, Ghost Death is good enough at Shovel Knight, they do not need it. But also, just for confidence sake, going for a nice and easy end to that tourney today, knowing that they are most likely, if they finish, to be on the top 4, that would be just, you know, pretty nice to have a smooth sailing and just be sure you can finish, as Exodo dies here, and Exodo goes for the same route as Zigwigwi. They're just like super far behind, and it's crazy, like weird, because Exodo was doing so great and they're so good at Shovel Knight, but yeah, Zigwigwi is not stopped by anything, and it looked unlikely they would beat the game on time, but apparently they can do it, so it's going to be tough for Exodo to be on top 4 now.
Yeah, this is two things happening that both spell tournament doom for Exodo. He needs a beautiful Shovel Knight, and it's already slipping away from him in a big way. You know, the worse your Shovel Knight goes early on, the more amazing, fantastic he's trying to get the. I don't think he's going to get that gold. He's going to have to give it up. Your back half of your Shovel Knight has to be in order to produce that 167 point run that he needs. I'm not even sure if it's still I mean, it's possible. It's possible, but it's getting so unlikely now that Exodo is able to make it happen. And even if he does, he needs Zigwigwi to not finish, and Zigwigwi currently is on a fantastic run, so the things are really not going Exodo's way. It's looking more and more like Zigwigwi is going to hold on to this top 4 spot.
Yep, and Ghost Death just died, so yeah. Well, obviously, Shovel Knight is a very tough game to beat on time, and you can see Zigwigwi in full ham with the Conjurer's Coat and the charge handle, so I was not sure what round they were taking, and they just actually went for the aggressive one. They're not buying the safety anchor or anything, they're just going like to get first place on Shovel Knight, even though their PB gives them 8th place, which is like, it is very surprising, and it shows, and that's probably why I love speedrunning so much. It shows that Zigwigwi worked on Shovel Knight for a week, and now they can compete with everybody, because in the UD you have to get good at the same time on 10 games, and it's very hard for everybody. It's not even PB dependent. You are going to get rusty on some games at some point, and it's great to see that just working on a game will bring you good results. You have to get like the correct luck on the day you need to win on, obviously, and it's not working so well for Exodo, but it can happen to pretty much anybody.
There is a 67-point difference between Zigwigwi and Ghost Death in Shovel Knight, and right now Zigwigwi has the lead over the two. This is obviously Ghost Death has had a couple deaths. He's not on the greatest run of his life, probably not going to PB, but I think really the thing here is that Zigwigwi is just doing so much better than his personal best would imply. This might be one of those situations where you've put in the practice time, but you haven't put in the full game attempt time, and it just doesn't reflect where you're really at with this game. That happens sometimes, and maybe that's where Zigwigwi is at, or maybe he is just having the time of his life playing Shovel Knight right now. I'm not sure, but regardless, this is a fantastic run.
They gave Brothermain the controller.
Oh.
No, it's not what's happening. But it's just...
We're going to have to start enforcing webcams.
Yeah, enforcing webcams and controller cam, just to be sure. But it's so... Sometimes it's so unlikely, and it's, as you said, like, being right at the point where you've practiced enough to PB but not able to PB is a is so rare, and you have to cherish that feeling when you are there and speedrunning, because it happens a lot when you are learning a game. You're just like, okay, I'll learn a game, and then I will obviously PB because this is my first run. And on the second run, you're like, it's pretty unlikely that I've done the best, so on my second run I probably PB. But after 20 runs, you're like, this is not going to be there. And it is fantastic to see that on Zigwigwi's screen. Aestrom getting to Plague Knight. Do remember they did the bosses in a different order, so they're probably not that far behind compared to everyone else. Axodo is having a very, very tough time, and Ghostdeath with 4,800 is going towards the Flaying Machine, where they will buy the Propeller Dagger, probably the best movement upgrade in the game.
Zigwigwi had a scary moment with a jellyfish there, fell down to the screen below. That is a blessing and a curse in the Flying Machine. In some of these vertical sections, falling off the bottom won't necessarily kill you, but it might lead to a situation where you just die at the other screen and you wasted time with the screen transition and the knockback and the wind and the Jawa, and he couldn't make it happen. Zigwigwi, man, that is a tough death. He's going to go back a fair ways. Ghost Death jumps out into the lead, and as good a run as Zigwigwi has, needs to hold it together here. This is Shovel Knight is a tough game, and it only takes so much for it to go so wrong. 1 hour 5 minutes is there's another knockback down to the screen below. 1 hour 5 minutes is the cutoff. That's the magic point that Zigwigwi needs to hit. Though Exoda's run is not going so well, so he might be okay even if he doesn't finish.
Yeah. Just imagine, like, knowing you can beat the game on time and he dies again on the same spot. Oh wow, that's going to hurt, because they were on such a great pace. They know they threw it, and now they have to shake the feeling, get there with 4K, because you need to be at 4,000 when you get to the Propeller Dagger, because you need to buy it still. And it would be so much stronger in coming into next week's final if they beat Shovel Knight on time today. The difference is huge mentally, I'd say. I feel like you really want to be there. And yeah, it gets the perfect Dust Knuckle right on the third time, and he was like just a few pixels away from the checkpoint when he died twice. So Ghostdeath is now far ahead. So is Aestrom, actually. Aestrom got there. And Zigwigwi died again. You cannot let all those happen, sadly.
Still has over the 4,000 gold limit. That is what the Propeller Dagger costs. That's kind of the biggest concern for Zigwigwi right now. Aestrom dies and loses a lot of gold. I think there's like 3,000 gold sitting over there, and didn't go shopping. Doesn't have the Conjurer's Coat. Doesn't have the charge handle. I don't know if these are things he plans to pick up or what, but
I don't even know if they have the Chaos Orb, to be honest. I feel like they only have the Dust Knuckle, and they die again, losing those precious 3K. And wow, that's a tough one. Fireman just got the Propeller Dagger, trailing right behind Ghostdeath. Zigwigwi is breaking a checkpoint to gather a lot of money before going into the shop and buying the Propeller Dagger. And Axodo, finally done with the Treasure Knight fight, they will go shopping. With 12k here, there's no other way. You have to go and buy the Conjurer's Coat. They will probably skip the extra health, but yeah, this is a tough time for Axodo.
Yeah, even if it all falls apart for Zigwigwi, Axodo is looking for like a 54:50-ish time in Shovel Knight. Well over 3 minutes ahead of their PB. Maybe it's very close to 3 minutes. 3-minute PB is huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge ask, and it's already been a really not so great run. I'm not even sure if it's even really in the realm of possibility anymore for Exodo, but he's going to keep trying, because what else can you do in this situation?
It is going to be pretty tough for them, but yeah, as you said, you just have to go as fast as possible. You still have the last chance tournament, so after next week we have the final for the September tournament, where today's top 4 will do the 10 games in a row over 2 days, because in one day, in one go, that would be way too long for a stream and for the runners. And 2 weeks after that, on the 6th and 7th of October, we will have the last chance tournament. So it is the last chance to get into the finals, where everybody, it's open to anyone, whether you were in the UD6 for a long time or if you just joined, you can get there. You have to beat the 10 games over 2 days on the 6th and 7th of October, and the best 2 results will give you the best 2 places. 2 results will give you a ticket to the grand finals. So obviously we are waiting for big names for that weekend. Maybe Melwest and Super Link God will be one of those names you can expect, but Exodo will still have a shot there, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see how the races go there.
Yeah, I mean, you just named 2 beasts in the Ultimate Decathlon that you would really rather not be competing against. Not to take anything away from Ghost Death and Fireman and Caprique, very strong runners, but there are some people who have managed to somehow find an entire tier above, who very likely will be competing in that last chance tournament. So you would much rather make it happen here on the September tournament. When it first started, we talked about how important it was going to be for some players, and it just hurts to have that opportunity start to slip away. We'll see just how things shake out for Exodo in his quest to topple Ziguigui, who is pretty late into the flying machine. Eastrom as well now has the propeller dagger, and is not going to go for the aggressive strat on that fan where you extend your hitbox big enough with the propeller dagger out, such that you catch the platform before the fan can force you down into the gap. Ziguigui died in the flying machine in a pretty bad way, got sent back pretty far because this checkpoint's broken.
That was terrible for them. I do not know if they have to buy the propeller dagger again. Yeah, they do still have it. I did not remember what happened when you died, and it sent you back before the shop. But that death cost them a lot, and they're still. The Exodo just passed them actually, so they were so far away earlier, and then the flying machine happened, and the Jawa screen happened, and wow, this is tough. But at least the checkpoint was just there.
They knew when they designed this room there should be a checkpoint before you have to do this room. Ziguigui just pogoed off the top of the screen and said, "See you later."
If you are designing a platformer and you feel like you need to put a checkpoint because it's too hard, maybe you should remove the room entirely. That's my take on the Jawa's room. I do understand the value in difficulty spikes, but when the enemies are so random and so annoying, I do not recommend the room to exist. Exodos is on the proper night fight, so is Quick. Fireman is pretty close behind Ghost Death there, actually like just a small tiny room behind, and because Ghost Death just died there. And Fireman is looking great to grab the first place, but Quick is has had like a fantastic day with 202 points on inertia, 187 and 183 on Cuphead and Story About My Uncle. It's pretty hard to catch them up.
Absolutely. Astrom died here in the Flying Machine. We saw Sailing to Mars just a little bit ago. I'm pretty sure he was done the Tinker Knight fight, so I think they didn't get off to the greatest start, but they picked it up in the middle third here of Shovel Knight. That or they're doing a different order, but no, I'm pretty sure I saw them in the Flying Machine, so not the case. They're doing quite good. Here's the gold we can see. Astrom died in this camp.
Oh, wow.
the giant gold bag was hiding the sprite of one of the helicopter rats. I'm not sure if he knew it was there. I certainly didn't, but he was able to react regardless and make that happen. Zigwigwi almost falling to his death, but manages to catch the ladder. Ghost Death into the Tinker Knight fight now. We'll see what strategies. Lobbing some Chaos Orbs. They're going to hit once and then not do so much good after that. You can do some stuff with the Dust Knuckles and the mobile gear, but they're both pretty hard to use, so I don't mind this just stand here and throw a couple Chaos Orb strat.
Yeah, this is an easy and nice strat they used. I'm very not familiar with the Chaos Orb use. To be honest, I always use the Anchor and the Fire Wand, which probably explains my poor PB on the game, but It is a very strong weapon. The Chaos Orb is very strong. Alongside with the Conjurer's Coat, you are taking a lot of risk, but if you know what you're doing, like, it's great. And Zigwigwi dies on that screen. Usually you want to see the runners bonk multiple times and just get lift up, but they have to go through those rooms again. And this is probably like the 7th or 8th death for the Zigwigwi on the Flaying Machine, and it is adding up quite a lot.
I wonder if this is one of those situations where Zigwigwi started, practicing the game more and more, and he started from the first level, and then he learned the second level and the third level, and then he didn't quite get a chance to learn the Flying Machine yet or something, but whatever the case, things have really unraveled for Zigwigwi in this level after honestly a fantastic first 5 or 6 stages, keeping pace with some of the better Shovel Knight runners in the UD, again dying there at the end of that fan section, not quite able to tap the rhythm that you need with the propeller dagger to repeatedly hit the wall and stall to save yourself. He definitely was trying for it, but wasn't able to make it happen. Another death for Astrom as well. Deaths just all over the place in this Flying Machine. We got some Polar Knight down for Sailing to Mars, Fireman and Ghost Death making their way through the stranded ship. Exodo just picked up the mobile gear and is moving on through the Tinker Knight fight. So the runners are all pretty spread out here.
Oh, I did not see that, but Ghost Death actually bought the Anchor. I like that play a lot. That's why they were breaking so many checkpoints earlier. At the start of the run, they really went for a lot of gold all the time, and it's pretty nice to see. It's still a very safe route they're taking, but Ghost Death with their playstyle, they're having a lot of very nice success so far. And like, to be honest, during the August tournament, they did not quite make it, but like, this is working nice for them, and they would be able to compete with everybody, I feel, onto next week's races. We'll see.
Yeah, I think so. I've been very impressed with Ghost Death's sort of late season surge. It's pretty rare for someone to come in late, having missed so much practice time, so it's so important, so key. But Ghost Death just has this ability to pick things up quickly, and also the drive to not stop at just going for really safe and consistent strats. A lot of players would be like, "Oh, I'm coming in late. There's not enough time to learn all this stuff. I'll do some of this easier stuff, cut some corners." And he hasn't. He's gone for some pretty aggressive stuff in a lot of cases, and is making it work. So been very impressed with Gothdes taking down Polar Knight. Just, I think only Salient Demars is ahead of him at this point, though he's quite close with Fireman, I think. Competing, both those players competing off stream at the moment. We'll probably check in with them in a little bit and see Exodo into the Tinker Knight fight, taking out phase 1 with the mobile gear, one hit. Never get tired of seeing it.
Yeah, this is the best. If like I've not seen the Tinker Knight phase 1 for so long, but I do remember it to be pretty annoying. Like Tinker Knight just runs back and forth, throwing like alien keys and French wrenches all around, and it's annoying. So just being able to shut him down in one hit is awesome. Second phase though is never easy. You have to be able to get some slashes and the mobile gear. Exodo tried to go for everything they had, sadly missed their magic, but had a decent fight still.
The optimal Tinker Knight fight is very tricky, menuing between the mobile gear and the dust knuckles for the multiple back and forth hits. Hitting, even just chaining the hits with the dust knuckle left right has a cadence to it that can be pretty tricky, especially with Tinker Knight shifting left and right, and then finding the pogo to get back up and not fall down afterwards. Very, very technical fight, so I'm not surprised to see many players say nuts to that. I'm just going to stand up here and just pogo over and over and over again. Aestrom dying on the screen with the checkpoint, so not too punishing. Ghost Death is going to be munching all the food up to 10 health, playing it nice and safe as you can with the Conjurer's Code anyway.
Strange Chip has some nice parts, and Exodo died here. Like, Exodo is taking a lot of very unusual death, and as you said earlier, this is not a good sign. And I think it's because they're going for new or more aggressive strat. They really are trying, but it's not paying off, sadly. It's way too hard to just go for new stuff when you're not practiced. It's pretty annoying to for them, I guess. Like, they know how to beat Shovel Knight fast, to be honest. They're just trying to go for doing it faster than usual, and it's just not working. Ghost Death is entering the the Enchantress Castle, final section of the game, and Zigwigwi and Aestrom on the right part of the screen, just trying to get the clock tower done. Zigwigwi is having a lot of trouble that they did not have earlier, so I think they're just slightly under-practiced, as their PB showed, but especially on the second and on the late part of the game.
I bet that is a major factor, but I also wouldn't be surprised if the quicksand effect has gotten a hold of him a little bit. You die once and you start thinking and worrying about how you just died, and it throws something off and leads you to die again, and it starts to compound, and the deaths start to pile up. Is doing an admirable job of recovering from that really nasty situation, but it definitely got him. It's going to be hard to get 20 minutes left to finish the rest of Tinker, Polar, the entire Tower of Fate. It's doable, but we're going to need to see early game Shovel Knight Zigwigwi come back for the late game here. We'll see. It's going to start with a Tinker Knight fight here.
So Tinker Knight phase 1 should be a no-brainer. Here we go. And phase 2, you have to decide for what weapon and what kind of strats you're going for. I do recommend just going safe. But yeah, sometimes you will try and need to land some more hits. But nice start, but sadly falls right again and takes another hit. Come on, Zigwigwi, you have to be able to deal some extra hits. You do not want the mobile gear to land directly on Tinker Knight's head. The mobile gear deals twice the damage if you manage to get it running before it hits, like it did right now. So that's way better. Couple of hits left and they're done. But yeah, it is very, very technical. Like every single boss fight, it's incredibly hard to optimize.
Yeah, every boss fight in Shovel Knight, when you're going for the fastest stuff, is highly technical. But with Tinker Knight, there's kind of no in between. Either you're going crazy with the Dust Knuckles and you're trying to work in these really tricky mobile gear shots, or you're basically just doing this. You're basically just doing the pogos. There's kind of no in between. So Aestrom falls down here. He's gonna wait for an opportunity to come back up. There it is, bouncing along. Needs 4 more hits, 2 more hits, and could have finished it with a Charge Slash. That may be what they were going for, but finds the last 2.
Sailing on the Mars is almost at the refights and the boss rush there. They got like a very, very solid Shovel Knight, and if only they beat Inertia 10 seconds faster, they would be totally, like, with that Shovel Knight run, qualified in the top 4. And it's heartbreaking. It's just like the cutoff is quite, it's doable for every game. All those runners can make it, but when you see a runner like barely higher, like a few seconds, it's really sad for them, because they are like very good at all those 5 games actually.
Man, I was trying to forget that happened to Stanley Demars. I was just trying to focus on the Ziguigui Exodo story, but you're right. Stanley Demars is a part of this story for sure. Was right there, one of those players competing, for that 4th spot. That's kind of been the story of this September semifinals, and it was basically inertia. Assuming Shovel Knight is finished out, would have been well above the 4th place finish, or where we're pretty sure 4th place is going to finish. So while it wasn't Shovel Knight that determined it, it was the 4th game rather than the 5th game. It was definitely down to one game, down to even one moment that that decided Stanley Demars' tournament fate. That's just it's just the way it goes.
I'm fairly sure if we take all those tourney and all those races we've done for UD6 at different spots, like all the nice drum to get the weird death there. At every single game took the spot like for the most important game of the day. Like today, clearly it was Inertia. Shovel Knight got its time to shine a couple of times. Eye of Sorrow clearly did. It's weird, but Inertia today it feels almost unfair and very unlikely, to say the least.
Even Cuphead was important today, because it was when Exodo went from 0 points to 182 points. Cuphead has only ever been important when there was like a weird death or two, but it was an important game today. Just one of 5 important games apparently. It's been a real roller coaster of a semifinal. Aestrom setting up for 3 daggers and doesn't get hit by the very well placed javelin throwing Viking looking dude at the end. Ghost Death is now done with Treasure Knight. In the refights is going to be getting Plague Knight next. Exodo is waiting patiently for this helicopter rat here to get within pogo distance, and gets what he's looking for.
The start of the Enchantress Tower, those few rooms, so when you're climbing, they all have some very interesting and different strats, and it's pretty hard to practice them all. So at a point you need to choose the strat you're going to do in a run, and it's some of those parts like I like the most in speedrunning, when you clearly have an option and it's going to decide a lot for you, your route and your strats, and how hard or slow you will have to go. Airstrom dying again, like the stranded ship is clearly taking a toll on them. Fireman died on the refights and went for them again. And Ghostdeath is nicely in the refights, but Silent Mars is almost done. Just has one final boss to go for. So, like, actually very good performance from Ghostdeath. They will clearly be sub-hour if they don't die horribly on the final boss, obviously.
53:48 is Salient Mars's PB, so could be pretty close. I'm not sure. It's probably not, but maybe there's a really strong Enchantress fight happening or about to happen very shortly. But we will focus on our 4 players here. Ghostdeath going to work on Tinker Knight, Exodo getting to some of these lovely silhouetted sections of the Tower of Fate. Zigwigwi joining the other players here in the Tower of Fate. And Astrom's struggles with the stranded ship continue, though we do have a new fresh checkpoint. And yeah, we got some Shovel Knight fans, perhaps because I finally correctly set the game to Shovel Knight on Twitch. They were able to find us and join in. If you haven't heard of Ultime Decathlon before, this is one of 10 games that players have learned over the course of a couple months. We started back in April. We're pretty far along now, but your practice time has to be split among, real life job, girlfriend,
sleeping,
groceries, and 9 other games. So you have to pick your battles. You need to figure out where you're gonna cut corners. What strats are you going to compromise on? And it is a wonderful, fun process. You get to see sort of a different aspect on speedrunning. Unless you're someone crazy like Mel West, in which case you just go for world record strats on everything and you just make it happen, or bust. We saw a bit of both. We saw a bit of world record level stuff and a bit of bust from Mel West. He's the top player on the leaderboard right now, and will be one of the favorites competing in the wildcard tournament that will be happening in October. But for now, we're in our September tournament. This is the semifinals. We're very far along into figuring out who is going to qualify in the top 4, and it's looking more and more like it's already decided. Exodo, the cards are stacked against him here with another death in the Tower of Fate. It's looking unlikely that he's going to finish, and he absolutely needs to finish in order to catch Zigwigwi.
Yeah, Zigwigwi has 10 minutes to beat the game to get like a first sub 65 PB. It looks pretty unlikely, but kind of doable. But like seeing how better they were at the start of the game compared to the end part, which is totally fair. When you are learning a speedrun, you are starting by the start and then you are getting slowly to the way harder levels. So I totally get where he stands at so far, but I'm pretty pessimistic, to be honest. Exodo is getting to that very tough spot with the skip and in the ceiling, and Ghostdeath is almost done with the game. Had a rough start of the fight here. Only half of the health of the Enchantress is done when they got under the floor there. You sadly have to wait slowly for the phase to be over.
Well, you don't have to wait. If you really wanted to, you could suicide drop down that hole and go for the insane pogo strats that I want to see someone do just once. It makes no sense to ever do it in a race situation.
Wow.
But I really want to see it. It's just such a cool strat.
You really have to be careful with what you wish, because that will, like, maybe that will happen. I know some runners have that in their PB just for the final or the 2 final hits. But you totally can get there and start pogoing even if the Enchantress still has like 5 HP. It's just like super crazy risky, because if you take the single hit, like anything, you will just fall and die. But the double KO is very nice for the player on Shovel Knight. Unlike a lot of other games where if you get a double KO, it's in favor of the game. But in Shovel Knight, you always can take a double KO, and the game will save you, revive you even during the boss rush. So it's not too bad. But yeah, I'd rather see the runners play safe and be sure they will kill the Enchantress, even if it has to take 20 seconds extra.
Ghost Death dropped his propeller dagger hits on the first go. Can he find 4 more here? He can. Going to be finishing with about a 57.08.
That's a very
solid
good
time. Yeah, it is. His PB is a 56.08, so just a minute off of PB. Going to be pretty happy with that time, I'm sure.
So yeah, very good time. They will finally get a full player card with all 10 games completed in both PBs and a race on time. So we are going to enter, like, this is the final, clearly it feels like the final stretch of the UD6, and it is. Every runner is going to enter next weekend tourney with a full card, with just like every games has been worked on, but you know, you still have that extra practice to go for if you want to be sure you will beat all the games on time when it matters. Axodo in the boss rush, Astrom and Zigwigwi making their way towards that. And Axodo clearly will beat the game on time, but clearly will not make those 167 points they needed.
Yeah, that happened about 4 minutes ago, unfortunately. We got a peek at Salient Demars, who had already defeated Enchantress 2, but was just sitting there, you know, letting the Enchantress explode forever. So it's kind of unclear when they actually finished. I was wondering how close they were going to be to their PB. We can see both Ghost Death and Fireman are pretty active in the chat, and both now having finished. You can get a feel for where they're at. I can tell you Ghost Death is feeling pretty good about that Shovel Knight run, recovering from a couple early deaths with a fantastic late game, and he earned it. Going to be finishing in the top 4, going to be qualifying for the finals of our September tournament happening next weekend. They'll be playing all 10 games on Saturday and Sunday. You can find them here on Speed Gaming, either 1 or 2, most likely. Though it's not 1, it's just regular Speed Gaming. Yada yada, you know. We'll check the schedule. But it's going to be 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. CEST, is on Saturday and Sunday, September 22nd and 23rd, is when you can find the top 4. Today, battling it out. Top 2 will qualify for Grand Finals, and top 4 from Grand Finals will advance to the Ultimate Finals. Ultimate Decathlon has, the Grand Finals not enough. Ultimate Finals are a huge, insane event live in France in a theater rented out.
Yeah, it's going to be great for a lot of players. The True Finals are actually the Grand Finals, and the Ultimate Finals is just a showcase, just a good opportunity to meet everybody you ran with, and it doesn't matter too much to win there because the conditions are so different, but it's a very, very nice event, and I'm super... Yeah, and then we go for the Ultimate Grand Finals, where... no, it's just Ultimate Finals are enough.
The top 2 from the Ultimate Finals have
meet all the world record holder for every single game, and
yeah,
I don't know. You can actually
they fight in a cage match.
Nice,
it's just totally different. They throw a curveball at them.
Yeah, it's
one side has a bat, and the other side has a knife, and choose which one. And okay, right, we're getting out of hand. We got some boss fights going on. Sequigui's got the Spectre Knight. Exodo as well as the Spectre Knight fight, though Exodo is much further along. And Creepweek is in this surprisingly tricky room. You'd think a room with just a bunch of dumb blocks wouldn't be such a problem, but it kind of is. We've seen some deaths. There's just something about that room that can catch people unaware.
So Yeah, we are at over 1 hour, so the timer actually reset because it's not made for longer games. But do not fear. It's been 61 minutes and 30 seconds. Zigwigwi is not going to be able to make it, sadly, but it's going to be very close, so they can go for a PB. Their PB is at 107, if I recall correctly. And yeah, they've been having like a pretty good run. They lost about 6 to 7 minutes to the flying machine, so clearly they will be able to save a lot of time on their upcoming attempts on Shovel Knight, and they're going to feel okay, I guess, for next week. And next week we are going to play all 10 games in a row, so it's going to be intense. Every single game is going to matter, and no one knows what is the single game that's going to tip the top two on their like leading place, and the third and fourth will actually have to go back and work for their grand final place on the last chance tournament. So it's going to be a tough one. Quick had a fantastic day, and sadly I feel like they're not going to make it to first place just because Shovel Knight has not been so great for them today.
Yeah, we checked in with the off-stream racers a little bit, and they were looking pretty good, but in the late game, some stuff didn't go their way. So they are going to be able to finish, though. They've got 2 minutes to take out Enchantress 2. It takes a while for this sort of transition from the first fight to the second. It can be kind of misleading when I'm watching the timer and I think, oh yeah, they got enough time, and then the fight starts and I'm like, oh, they don't have a lot of time, but they do. He really does have enough time here. He cannot afford to die, though, so he needs to make it happen on this attempt. Ooh, Shovel Knight's back up there for the support. Oh, did he get enough? He did get enough to start the next phase, but I don't think he's going to be able to get 9 hits with the propeller dagger here. But he is going to be able to chain together.
Nice.
Great.
They got like crazy Shield Knight behavior. We're able to go up there, and we're not tripped up at all by the second phase. So that's a very nice finish for them. Zigwigwi is not going to have the time to beat the boss rush on it. They died, sadly, halfway through. Istrom is not going to have the time to beat the game either, so they're stopping here. And Exodo is going to... I don't know. I think just the transition between phase 1 and phase 2 alone are way too long. But they're doing their best.
It would be quite exciting to see if Exodo could finish here, but it's really not going to happen. Even if you went for the crazy, 5 health, it's 10 hits, 10 pogos.
That's when you should go for it.
Really, yeah. If there was any time, it would be right now. But instead, he's just playing basketball or something and just throwing them down.
They're
swoosh.
Like, big shout out to Exodo, because they really tried to make that crazy 3 minutes PB happen. They went for everything, and they did not stop. It's not like, okay, I failed a couple of first levels, I will stop and revert to safety. No, they went all in for the entire run, even though they knew at some point it was already done for. It's crazy. It's pretty cool. Quick killed the Enchantress, and it's over, sadly, for most of them, but 4 runners will advance and be playing all the 10 games back to back on next weekend. Both 5 games on Saturday, 5 games on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the official leaderboards in a moment, but the story has already been written. It's going to be Kapikpik, Fireman, Ghost Death, and Zigwigwi are going to be our top 4 for our September finals. This was the top 3. I think Zigwigwi was the 4th that we expected, looking at the overall leaderboards. But when we were looking at the 5 games specifically we were going to play today, the story was a little different. It was actually much closer for the 4th place. Indeed, Zigwigwi was not the 4. No, he was, but just by 30 points away from both Salient Demars and Aestrom. And then we saw Exodo, actually, with a good Cuphead, was maybe actually in 4th, now that I think about it, It was very close. We can take a look now at the final results. Like you said, Quick Shovel Knight did not go well enough that he will not finish in first, though we're mostly concerned with the top 4. We're cutting it down from 8 to 4. It's definitely nice to walk away with a first place finish, but that honor is going to go to Fireman with a really strong Shovel Knight and Inertia, and just solid across the board, really, finishing in first place by 20 points. Quick, incredible first 4 games.
Yeah.
Almost enough to sail through Shovel Knight in first place, but not quite. Ghost Death, also another very consistent performer, had some troubles with The End Is Nigh, and a little bit with Sorry About My Uncle, but still very solidly in that 800-point range. And then after some things happened in Inertia and Shovel Knight, it was Guigui who came out on top, going to be occupying that 4th place position.
It was a roller coaster from start to finish. I was really not expecting Exodo to start so strong, and then I was very surprised when Inertia happened. So yeah, I loved all our tourney. July, August, and September. It's going to be hard to pick a favorite, but clearly 2 days races are probably the more tense we've had in a while. We're already late on the schedule. Right next after that is Mario Galaxy. It's a pretty strong speedrun. I do recommend watching that, and obviously we'll be there next week. So here we see next week the top 4 advance to the finals, happening on Saturday and Sunday at 5 p.m. CEST or 11 a.m. EDT. So we should not have any like daylight switching saving issues quite yet. It's going to happen later, a little bit later this year, but it's been great, and I'm very, very excited for this final.
Me too. If you are for some reason not excited, you might be excited about all the things happening on Speed Gaming today and every day. Today in particular, Ori Randomizer. That's Ori in the Blind Forest happening on Speed Gaming 4, Portal happening on Speed Gaming 5, a variety of things happening on 3. There's The Messenger just came out, ninjas, memes, pretty cool game. There's a showcase of it happening on Speed Gaming 3 right about now. Later on, you will see some Shovel Knight, hey, as well as Mega Man X, and there's going to be some Undertale, Momodora, and the Zelda 1 randomizer bracket unveiling all happening on Speed Gaming 1. So !schedule will show you all of that stuff. And we'll be back next weekend. And Twin, I can't wait.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be great. So see you then.